Hi, good morning and good evening to everyone. So we'll wait for 1 minute and then we'll start. So let's start the day, guys. Good morning and good evening to everyone who have joined today from all parts of the world for half-day virtual event, AI in retail and e-commerce sector. My name is Nitin Naveen and I am Vice President Innovation and Strategy at AI CodeSpot. I'll be host for the day. Further, I've been joined by my colleague Arvind Kannan and Naveen Kumar, who will also assist me in keeping the event lively. So thanks a lot to them for binding all the things together. In AI CodeSpot, our aim is to be #1 AI-driven community all over the world so that like-minded people can be a part of the same in supporting, growing, and making it a success. Our mission is to serve as a hub for information regarding Industry 4.0 technologies, which encompass and not limited to AI, ML, deep learning, robotics, blockchain, IoT, edge computing, analytics, 5G, drone, edge AI, digital twin, AR cloud, and so on. We'll continue to do industry-backed events, webinars, and hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from reliable data through industry leaders, subject matter experts, and the thought leaders who will be joining us. We will enrich the content through videos, blogs, newsletters, digital content to shed light on the Industry 4.0. Request all of you to go through our website for any future updates. Please like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer. Now coming to today's event. This is one series of events which we have planned this month, apart from the webinar which will happen on 29th. The theme of that event is how AI is transforming the retail and e-commerce sector. So request all of you who is here to join that event as well and get an understanding from the industry thought leaders. Just a 1-hour webinar and it will give you a lot of insights into that. So before starting with the day, I would like to highlight a few things so that it can set up the tone for the amazing learning and networking day. Special mention to our technology partner, Digit7, has helped us in understanding our vision and supporting us to create a platform through which we can achieve our objectives. Their support is immense, and we are here because of them. Innovation is the cornerstone of Digit7. As the old adage goes, first never follows. And to be the #1, you have to be unique. Innovative business practices are the need of the hour, and Digit7 is the catalyst of transformation through the products that symbolify innovation through automation. You can go through their website, digit7.io, and understand more in depth. Also, thanks to all our community partners, including Incentro, Accenture, Branzio Watches, Spectra Edge, Highmark Health, CVS Health, Rentamula, Blueprints, Clarify, to make this event a success. Special mention to speakers and attendees of the event who registered and came today to achieve their objectives through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain few things, then our core objectives will be achieved. There will be few polls which we'll be conducting throughout the day, and the message will be broadcasted to everyone. As soon as you can see the same, kindly attempt, and you will we'll get a lot of understanding on what your thinking is, and the speakers will be able to adjust according to that. If anybody wants to ask questions, they can do that after the end of each session through Q&A section. There's a right side corner of the menu option, or there's an or you can ask the questions at the end of the entire session. You can even raise the hand and come to the stage to ask questions as well. Now I'll quickly share the screen so that you can go through the agenda where you will get introduced to the speakers, their topics, the breaks we are having for the day, so that it sets up the tone. I'll just share the screen. Give me 1 minute. So hope you can see the screen. Anyone can just reply.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So we are starting now. So obviously the first talk you can see 9 a.m. We have Pedro Lindsay, who is e-commerce consultant in Centro, and his topic is Metallica and Van Gogh applied to e-commerce. Then we have Mr. Anup Gopinath, who is Director of Global Applied Intelligence, Accenture. His topic is personalization in retail. Then the next speaker is Mr. Ronnie Teja, who's founder of Branzio Watches. His topic is using AI to increase AOV in e-commerce. So after the 3 talks, we'll take a break. We'll take a break of around 10 minutes. Then we'll have a panel session. In the panel discussion, we have Rishi from AVP in Pactera Edge. Deepak Singh is their product manager of Highmark Health. Sunanda Parthasastri will join, Senior Director, Data Science, Retail Pharmacy, Personalization, CVS Health. Sumaira Noor will join, who's Head of Talent and Transformation, Rentamula. So the topic for the panel discussion is what's the future of AI in retail and e-commerce sector. Then we have Eric and Corinne who will take the next talk. Eric is Head of AI Blue Prism and Corinne is Director Retail and Transport Blue Prism. Their topic is how the merger of AI and robotic process transformation is transforming retail operations. Then we have Zeph, who is the Technical Marketing Manager, Clarify. His topic is using data efficiency in AI for retail. After that, we'll close for the day. If we have any question answers, you can ask, and we'll happy to take it forward. Hope everything is crystal clear and everything is set up for the day. So I'll hand over the what I say to do the laurels. The first talk is always the deciding thing. So I'll ask Pedro to do the talking and take his talk forward. Please, Pedro. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Coming up. I hope you can see my screen. Let's see. Here we go. I think we all said, right? Well, thank you very much for that intro. It's great to meet you, everyone. Great to be here. And let's start. We have 20 minutes ahead of us. So let's move on. So loads of people are speaking about, obviously, artificial intelligence, but around artificial intelligence, that loads of devices, loads of platforms, loads of things. And the phone, I think, is one of the most important thing, right? I read this about when the phone was cable, we had much more freedom, right? So now that everything is digital, everything is mobile, perhaps we don't have that freedom. 1 out of 3, we check, I'm the first one, we check the phone every 5 minutes. So we are always connected, always on device, especially mobile phone, right? What about what do we use? Why do we need a telephone? A mobile phone is just not to make calls, right? We do so many things. We do shopping, we do selfies, we do absolutely everything. Even this great picture, this is a real picture. Call it cardio WhatsApp, right? So even when you go to the gym and you do an exercise, we have to text and we have to share all the information. We always want to be connected. That's the whole point, okay? When we meet people, we have been in a pandemic now that everyone was locked down. We had to stay at home. We were all complaining that we want to go out. We want to be with our friends, but we go out and we still with our devices. We're sitting, having dinner with our friends, with our family, but we don't pay that much attention to people around us. We have to share everything with the rest, with those that have not been able to come to this meeting. We need holiday. We want to go to the beach. We want to relax, but the phone is always in our hand, right? We are always connected, always there, and especially consumers. I'm not sure, have you seen this picture before? This is really a top museum in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and was badly criticized. This was in national press in many countries, and like how on earth you can be in a museum and these children are on the phones, they're not paying attention to this fantastic art. So I really want you, please, to keep this image in mind, because we're coming back to this, and I want you to think by yourself, what do you think about this? What comes to your mind when you see this? Okay, so forget about how badly it has been criticized. Just think about yourself. And the most important statistic of the day, 17% of European ladies, they take the phone while intimating, while having sexual relationships. Okay, so this is actual fact. 17%. I think 17% is a very, very important statistic. So the most important thing, people in the audience, co-workers, colleagues around me, do you guys feel identified with this? Anyone? Not only with the 17%, okay? So, I mean, do you feel identified with everything we have said about how much we use the phone, how important the phone is becoming our life, especially let's think about consumers, okay? So that's one of the most important things. As I mentioned, please remember this picture and feel free if anyone wants to share any views. What do we think here? What the audience, my colleagues around the table, the organization, anyone, feel free to share your view if you want. What's your opinion about this? Well, this has been badly criticized, okay? And the most important thing is that we have to learn. We have to learn from this. It's true that we're always on the phone. And it's true that sometimes we criticize, but we can criticize our friends. We can criticize our daughter, our son, our family, that, hey, hold on, now I'm here, or now we are having this amazing event. So it'll be really rude if I'm talking to you and I'm here on the phone, right? So obviously that's wrong. But we have to think that consumers are evolving. Digital solutions are evolving. So if consumers want to use the telephone, let them use the telephone. We're not here to criticize the audience. We're not here to criticize our customers. We're here to listen to them and to deliver what they really, really need. And that's one of the most important things inside or artificial intelligence is the big data, is analyzing, is listening to our consumers. And I think that's what we have to do really good. From Incentro, from our perspective as digital consultants, we are always there helping our clients that sometimes they want to have this amazing solution. That is because someone inside the organization wants to have that solution. But does your client need this solution? Have you speaking to your clients? How are your clients? This is the most important thing. So if we go back to museums, to be honest, those students were only doing their homework. They already did all the exhibition and they were just asked by the teachers to do. But however, we really, really criticize them. Let's assume for a minute that our consumers, we have a gallery, we have a museum, and they don't like to be walk around and to see art. They want to have a digital. If they want to have a digital, let's do this. There are great companies that have developed this. This is a company called Canvas, and they developed this app where you can have an amazing experience with a gallery. Also, I'm not sure if you know Van Gogh Alive, another great experience, how you can take the arts to a digital level and really show an amazing experience to consumers. And I think that's the whole point. To be honest, I love mobile phones. I'm not criticizing. I just want you guys to think about it. So it's great to be here. Good afternoon, good morning, depends where you are. It's afternoon for me, morning for some of you. My name is Pedro Lindsay, and I'm a digital consultant. I'm an expert on the e-commerce. I have worked many years in the retail industry, helping retailers to jump into digital solutions, more oriented to in-store solutions. And now I work with the other side of the equation. I work on the online environments, and it's fantastic. In addition to this, I'm a lecturer in different business schools. I love teaching, especially because each time I teach, I learn. Each time I have to prepare, speak or any conference or any lesson, and it's great to learn. I work at Incentro. I'm not sure how many of you know Incentro. Incentro is a digital consulting firm. We are based in the Netherlands. Or originally, we are from the Netherlands. Okay, I'm based in Spain. We have been in the market for over 25 years now. Actually, 25 this year. So since 1996, a hell of a lot of things have happened in the digital world in these last years. But we expanded. We're always keen to expand and to look for great partners. We are based now in 3 countries, mainly in the Netherlands, where our headquarters are. In Spain, we have 3 offices in Madrid and 2 in Santander. And we jumped into the African market in Kenya, Nairobi, 4 years ago, and it's looking great. We are a small company. We have loads of offices, but we're a small company, only 400 consultants, always growing. But so the fact is one of the most important things of this company is that we didn't want to become a huge IT company with a huge headquarters and doing every single project. We have a small offices run by teams of 50, 60 people. We are specialized, every single office in Central specializes in different technologies. So we want to have the best partners and the best IT people and we have experts in those, and we don't want to do everything. Once you come to us, and if you need something that we cannot cover, we will refer you to another of our offices, another of our teams that can help you, or perhaps one of our partners. From these markets, we work on 10 different countries. We are different countries, different big multinational companies. And one of the things also I'm really proud of is that we have won 9 years in a row the title of Best Place to Work, which is really good. If we speak about the Spanish market, which is my area, we have 3 areas of specialization. Obviously, the e-commerce, next generation e-commerce, where artificial intelligence obviously is very, very important. Search and merchandising, A/B testing. Then we move into the experience. We think that's how the experience, especially B2C and B2B, how it's evolving, especially B2B, because B2C has always been there. We're always really, really demanding. And B2B has always been a bit old-fashioned. And it's amazing now, probably due to pandemic, how this has also evolved. And the final one is all related to cloud solutions, cloud and low code, which is becoming really, really, really huge. So there's a bit of an intro, speaking about a bit what we do and why we are here. And we're invited to speak about next generation e-commerce and Mac technology. Mac technology, I'm not sure also how many of you are familiar with the Mac technology. Is the new thing. I think it's the digital revolution. I have not seen a revolution like this at least in the last 10 years. I think Mac is really, really huge, and it's becoming really, really important. So the points, as everyone is saying, is are we coming back after pandemic, or what is going to happen? No, the thing is, no, absolutely everything is changing. We are changing, especially as IT people. We are changing as companies, the way we think, and especially the most important thing is why companies are changing, why these solutions are evolving. Why do we have to think different? Why we have to think out the box? Well, mainly because clients are the ones, consumers are the ones that really, really changing. And they have not changed because of pandemic. We are always evolving, always, absolutely always. I remember when and buying internet, buying on e-commerce was a huge thing, really, really big, and everyone was quite excited. But perhaps the technology was not enough and was a bit residual now. And how now that COVID came and loads of retailers were not ready to serve those clients. Okay, now we're moving forward. Perhaps we're ready, or at least we have made a huge offer to be ready, but it's not enough. Consumers are still evolving. And one of the biggest things is experience. Consumers want to have a great, great experience online. Okay, so they are indeed more digital than ever. That this is not going to stop. They will keep demanding. It's not just about going online and just purchasing a product, okay? Because buying a product is something that perhaps you can have as Amazon, the subscription if you want milk, or if you want loo paper, if you want tissues, if you want oil, things that are not quite exciting, you can use programmatic. But if you want to buy, to purchase, you want to search different websites, you want to buy a trip to go away this summer, you want to have a really, really good experience. And that's something really good. If you don't do that, if you don't pay attention, this is what's going to happen. So people are going to fall asleep behind the screen. And worse than that, they're going to run away. They will stay 30 seconds on your website. If you're not giving to them what they want, they will jump into the competition. And that's the big thing. And in online, it's so easy to swap. It's so easy to switch to another client. So the wow effect is not easy, but is very, very important to do. How do we do the wow effect? Is it about decorating? Is it about investing loads of money? Well, it's about knowledge. It's about understanding the consumers, having a great product to do, and try to know as much as you can about your consumers, especially one-to-one. Like the personalization is really good, but we're moving, thanks also to artificial intelligence, we're able to move into hyper personalization. Okay, so one-to-one conversation. You can have a site just by them, but it's very important to understand what an experience means to your consumer. Does it have to be over the top? So do they want, if it's a restaurant, do they want to have an aquatic restaurant? Do they want to eat a meal naked? Do they want a great experience when they go to the supermarkets, or great marketing campaigns? Well, it is important. It's important to understand what excites them, what is good for them, what is new, because sometimes new is really, really, really important. But let's translate that into online business, into e-commerce. It's not easy to give a great experience. It's not, but we have to do that. I'm not sure how many of you have an e-tron, an e-tron, but one of the, I think I feel really, really proud that one of our solutions, our e-commerce solution, it's called Commerce Tools, German-based, since last year. when you are in discount and you want to have upgrades, you want to purchase, you are connected in that e-commerce already inside your car. So you can purchase, you can do so many things, and the experience is amazing. Oh, so many clients are doing great things. Opticians, opticians, we thought they were quite traditional, they were not evolving, and it's amazing again how they're applying artificial intelligence, how they're applying next generation e-commerce, and how they're doing amazing things in the customer experience. Same things with banks and so many industry. So the whole point about the online is it's not longer transactional, it's not longer residual, it's not longer just to wait for customers to come and purchase something. Okay, we have to break the ice. We have to obviously avoid any gaps, especially between what the consumers are expecting out of us, from our brand, from our website, from the experience, especially omni-channel. How many times I want to buy something, I go to the mobile application or the mobile even website, but through the mobile, and it's not responsive, it's not good. And we keep saying that everything is responsive, but unfortunately, it is not. Okay, so let's forget about the catalog. On online and e-commerce is not just an online catalog. And let's forget about the transactional stage. We want, and you can see how marketplaces are evolving and growing. Like marketplaces is huge things. Like it used to be like an eBay, an Amazon, and an Alibaba thing. And now you can see in the Spanish market and many other markets how retailers are moving into the concept of already marketplaces. They have collaborations with other brands. They want to offer all the brands out of what they already offer, because they want you to be a destination. The e-commerce, they want you to engage with them. They want you to visit them as many times as you can. So it can be like the e-shopping centers, right? That's what they're trying to do. So we need to get creative. We need to try to surprise those consumers, especially understand them. And when we're speaking about e-commerce, the journey is long. The journey starts the moment I'm at home and I'm searching for the products, and I do all the customer journeys. Since I buy the products, I receive the email, I have a delivery at home. So all those touch points are really, really important, and we have to try somehow to inspire those users. Okay, we have to think also. Now we speak a lot about evolution. We speak about artificial intelligence. We speak about app responsive, not responsive. The thing is, after pandemic, I think what we have here in the market is so many new digital consumers, not necessarily young, because young, they already know and they born with an iPad in their hands. But we have loads of people that were not used to buy online, or not used to use a video call as we do in here, or that's not using different technologies. And now they're forced, they have learned, they like it. So everything has to be really, really easy made for them. Everything has to be, we have to think about those new consumers and make it like our experience has to be for dummies. Otherwise they get lost and they move on. And the most important thing is that, yes, we have a desire, we all want to evolve, we want to offer a great experience, but sometimes we are very limited, right? We don't have the tools to do it. We have a complex structure, we have a complex IT, perhaps we are not on the cloud, everything's on premises. So are you really, really, retailers especially, are you able to evolve the way you want? Do you really have the freedom, or do you have lots of tension between IT and business, which sometimes it happens? So if you think about the experience, if you think about the CMS, if you think about your e-commerce, especially, are you really able to have what you want? Because we find loads of difficulties in the market, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. It becomes, I think, it's something I really like. Is it used to be like big companies like Salesforce, for example, which is an amazing company. I have loads of respect. Same thing with SAP. But at the end of the day, these companies are probably the leaders in CRM and ERP solutions. But because they're leaders in that, and people trust the brands and trust the name, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the best ones in artificial intelligence, or they're going to be the best ones especially on e-commerce, on experiences, because they are not. So the world now has evolved so much. Everything is about microservices, micro experiences. So it's about the niche market. You have amazing people, India, Asia, United States, Europe, the Netherlands, Spain, that they become experts in one part of the whole chain. Okay, so if you think about the customer journey in an e-commerce solution, you have the e-commerce, so what we understand by e-commerce. You also have the website, you have the CMS, you have the search engine model that you want to, consumers want to look in your website for things, not in addition to Google, I mean, just inside the e-commerce. you have the basket, you have the catalog of products, you have so many elements inside there. So, on our opinion, it is not possible to be the best one at every single element. It is impossible to have the best catalog in the world, the best payment service, the best logistics, the best search engine, the best artificial. It's not possible. You have great companies that are experts on that field, and they're certainly going to be better than you. So if those are going to be better than me, why can I not use them? I mean, that's the best thing to do. If you think about the streaming, the TV, we want to watch, today is Friday night, I probably want to watch a film tonight. So I have the freedom to choose HBO or Movistar, which is in Spain, or Netflix, and it's really easy to swap from one to other. If we think about the e-commerce, swapping or adding microservices, elements that really need, is very complex. You need a project, you need IT, you need time, you need loads of money, you probably make mistakes. So with these new concepts, how the technology has evolved from the monolithic to next generation, like companies like Commerce Tools, especially Big Commerce, which is really good. Or if we move into the experience, we also have amazing companies like Bloomreach or like Contentful, and loads of them. There's some others that are really, really good. Fluent Commerce is another good example, as opposed to, for example, like with all my respect for Magento, PrestaShop, Salesforce app, which are old-fashioned. So if we think about the digital world, we probably think about Nokia and Blockbuster, companies that have not been able to evolve, and not because they were not big, because they were huge and had loads of money and they already had the customers, but they were not there listening to the customers. They were not applying the right technology. They were not giving the experience. And I think this new concept, especially the Mac technology, is the way to move forward. And if we speak about Mac, I'm not sure if you have heard this term, but basically Mac, the M means microservices, as I was saying before. So being able, if you have an e-commerce, instead of having a product, which is a closed product, a box, you want to have a Lego. Yeah? You want to have a Lego that you can build yourself very, very easy. Those are microservices. You have to have a Mac technology, a Mac structure like Commerce Tools, where you can have all the elements you want to add, and use it by the A by API first. Very important is to be cloud native. We work a lot with Google, obviously, and it's very different to put something on the cloud and as opposed to be cloud native. Okay, these solutions, these modern, are solutions that were built in the last 10 years, and the last 10 years because they were built by, or they were developed by people that already come from different areas of technology. They really understand technology. They really understand consumers and where the market goes, and they're doing it. If we think about loads of technology that we use still, they were built in the 90s. And in the 90s, they're great companies and they're huge, but the 90s, I mean, the needs of the 90s were very different from today. The availability in the market was very different. The consumers in the 90s were very different from the consumers today. So we have to evolve a bit quicker, and I think these solutions are giving a great option. Headless, in other words, what it means is that not necessarily when it comes to an e-commerce solutions, the client doesn't care about what artificial intelligence module you're using, what payments terms you have. So it doesn't care about the back end. Okay, so the consumer only sees the front end, and the experience is only front, right? So the CMS, the website, everything. And when I look for something I wanted, or because of artificial intelligence, when I enter your website, you offer me content that's really relevant for me. I don't care how you do it. Consumers, I only care about what I see and what is delivered to me. And that's what makes me to be happy and obviously to buy and keep moving. And that's the whole point of these technologies. So in other words, it used to be the big fish used to eat the small one. Now it's about being quick, being agile, and really understanding consumers. If we go back to Metallica, we spoke about Van Gogh, but we see this picture of Metallica. Metallica is an amazing band, has been successful for many, many, many years, but also they're clever people. They have not stuck, they have evolved. If we look at this picture, was perhaps smiley people. It doesn't look really like a hard band rock, really successful, especially if you think about millennials. I don't think they're going to be very attractive to this photograph. I mean, if you really are objective, it looks more like a Metallica. This looks like a L'Oreal ad, okay? So a shampoo ad. I mean, it's not very, very sexy to look, but this was successful in the 80s and perhaps early 90s. So the point is we have to evolve, we have to change. And Metallica, clever enough, they have evolved. Yes, they're old, but they know how to understand. They're really intelligent people. They use technology. They really understand what consumers want. Each time they go to a concert, which is amazing. It's amazing how Metallica today, this band of 4 guys, obviously with loads of people and good partners, they're able to analyze worldwide, for example, who's using Spotify, okay, and who is listening to Metallica and Spotify. What are those people? How often do they do it? And in which markets? So now when I'm ready and I speak to my producer and I want to do a concert in Europe, for instance, I will be able, thanks to that artificial intelligence, thanks to that big data, I will be able to understand what really my audience is. I'm not going to take the risk to go to a market where perhaps Metallica is no longer a hit, right? So I already know this technology is helping them to evolve and helping them to be really accurate and helping them to be successful. So retailers, are you ready? Are you ready to change? And you able to move forward? Because we are ready, obviously, here to embrace change together. So thank you so much, everyone. I think I did it on time, and it has been a real pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, Pedro. Absolutely. You are on time, and thanks a lot for sharing your idea. It's a lovely one.
My pleasure.
Love to have you here. Guys, any questions to Pedro? We have some time, as he was actually before time, so it's good. If you have any questions, feel free to ask questions to him. There's a Q&A option on the top, on the right side of the screen. If you can see, you can type your questions there as well. You can also come to the stage where there's a button like this on the below. You can just click on that and you can come on stage to ask Pedro a question. Anything what you feel like. Any one of you, you can ask the question. Q&A section is there. If you want to type it, you can type it and ask question to Pedro.
I'm also available in LinkedIn or via email, so I'm more than happy if the audience or my colleagues, if they want to ask any questions after
Absolutely.
the event, feel free to continue.
Yes. Feel free to network with Pedro. Feel free to interact with him on LinkedIn. I think that what is the message from Pedro as well. He will be happy to help all of you out in whatever queries you can have related to the technology which he's into. We'll take maximum 1 minute to understand if anybody has questions. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next presentation.
I think they're desperate to listen to the next person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, Pedro, I think all set. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Thank you for having, we are proud to have you here as a speaker, and we'll stay connected in future as well. Thank you. Thank you. So guys, moving on to our next presentation, we have Mr. Anup Gopinath, who is Director of Global Applied Intelligence at Accenture. So he leads Accenture's Global Retail AI team and responsible for Accenture's AI Retail Suite that help retailers across the globe accelerate digital transformation with AI. So I'll let him do the talking so that you all are well versed with what his topic is and what he's having scope for you. Over to you, Anup. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you guys are in the world. Glad to, be at this summit. So like Naveen said, I lead AI retail for Accenture. So I lead AI analytics practice globally for Accenture. What I want to go through today is retail personalization. I also want to talk briefly about, the challenges that retailers face in doing personalization and what are some things that they can do to overcome it, right? At least holistically. So that's it. I'm going to share my deck. Hopefully this works. And if someone can, and Nitin, if you can confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, absolutely. I'll confirm to you. Don't worry. I'm just here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, can you see my screen, Nitin?
Not now. Yes, it's coming. Yes, I can see that.
Okay, perfect. It took a while, but yeah, I'm glad it's finally painted. So so today, folks, I want to talk briefly about personalization in retail. right? And again, personalization is a bit is a confused topic, right? There is this lack of clarity in terms of what it is and how to implement it, what are the common obstacles, and how to overcome it. So I'll cover some key topics today, that I believe are relevant in this space. And it's become a default, right? It's hard for a retailer not to embrace personalization today, right? It's table stakes, right? So if you are a customer interacting with any retail brand, you expect a certain level of personalization, and the expectations are increasing by the day, right? It's not about just personalization one use case, but you expect personalization across the whole customer journey, right? As you interact with the brand, right, in various forms, right, through various channels, you want a seamless personalized experience. You want the brand to know who you are, right, what you are about, your preferences, your tastes, and then show you things that matter. A simple example: if you're a vegetarian, and if the brand already knows you're a vegetarian, you don't want to be presented with non-vegetarian options, right? Very simple example. And more brands are embracing healthy lifestyle, right? Different lifestyle choices, so they can personalize their offerings according to what you want, right? If you're trying to lead a healthy lifestyle, they want to make sure that they only offer you healthy choices, right? Whether you are a quick serve restaurant, or whether you are in health food business, or whatever the case may be. So the expectations are always on the rise. And it's no longer about point personalization, but it's also providing personalization across your entire journey with that brand. I'm going to try to page down and hope it works.
Guys, there's a poll. There's a question there in the poll option. You can just go to the poll, answer the question. What percentage split of companies that are genuinely excelling at personalization, experimenting with one-on-one campaigns, still relying on segmentation approach? This is the question. Go to the poll section. You can do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitin. Thanks for that. So I wanted to start with absolute basics here, right? So before we jump into the specifics of personalization, right? Really, if you think about it, right, fundamentally, it's about three things, right? It's what we call a segment of all, which means you are sending a message to all your customers, right? Loyal customers or new customers, right? Customers who probably used your product but haven't signed up. So that's segment of all, right? So you're sending a message or an offer to everyone, right? Your entire customer population. Then you have segment of many, which is predominantly what most retailers do today. So you identify customer segments, right? You create sub-segments and you market, you send an offering or a message to that specific segment. This is where most retailers are today. But what we want to achieve is what we call a segment of one, which is that absolute personalization based on who you really are, right? And the goal is to make profit or loss one customer at a time. I think that's super important, right? You want to understand every individual customer in depth, right? Based on their past purchases, past history with you, recency, frequency, monetary value data, preferences data, both explicit and implicit preferences, right? Choices they've made. And you want to, provide a highly personalized experience to that customer, right? And so that's segment of one, or treating each customer as a single entity and providing a highly relevant, responsible experience to them, right? So that is what personalization is all about, right? It's really, they all do segment of many, right? They subsegment their customer, they figure out lookalikes, and then market or send messages based on that. The ultimate goal is to get to segment of one, which is aspirational for a lot of retailers, but that's where the magic happens, right? That's when you get the real returns and when you earn absolute brand loyalty. Now let's talk about micro and what I call as aggregate personalization, right? So when you do one-off personalization, so as you interact with the brand, so let's start with you visiting a quick serve restaurant, right? The first thing you encounter is the menu, right? So whether you open their mobile app or you go in store, you have to go through a menu and pick an item, right, that you want to buy. So that would be menu personalization, which is what I call as a micro personalization or a one-off personalization or a personalization by use case. the scope is pretty narrow. You're trying to do one thing, for the customer. So like I said before, if you're a non-vegetarian customer, or sorry, if you're a vegetarian customer, right, you don't want to be shown non-veg menu items. Very simple example. Or if you don't want dairy products, you are shown alternates like almond milk or oat milk, right? So that would be a one use case personalization. So as you start your journey with that brand, right, you start with multiple micro personalizations along the journey. But ultimately, what you want to do is you want to provide the customer an aggregate personalization experience. So as you go through the journey, right, from one use case to the next, right, as you interact with across channels, you want to provide the customer a holistic, unified, personalized experience. So a lot of retailers, right, they tend to do a great job at micro personalization, right? What I call is one-off personalization, whether it's product recommendation, menu personalization, but combining all these use cases into a cohesive solution that brings it all together along your customer journey, right? That's where magic happens, right? That's where you earn that the trust, right? You gain that affinity of the customer because you're providing not a one-off personalization, but you are personalizing the experience throughout the journey of that customer. So that's what we call as aggregate personalization. And for the vast, for the vast majority of time, the focus has been on micro personalizations, right? One-off personalization, whether it's product recommendation or menu personalization. But now the thinking is you need to provide a more holistic personalization, right, for the customer to keep them engaged, right? Provide them rewards, and it doesn't always have to be a rewarding experience, right? There will be some cases where you can you can move the needle, in different directions, right? Like if the customer explicitly tells you that they want to have a healthy lifestyle, right? Then you want to help them make healthy choices, right? You want to, make healthy recommendations when it comes to food, right? You want to promote more, more activity, right? And so that way you can provide them a holistic experience, and that ensures, deep loyalty to your brand. And customers are demanding this more and more, right? It's not just about one-off personalization, but it's also about personalization throughout the journey. So that's the difference between micro and aggregate personalization, and we believe that long term that's the sweet spot, right? You want to do aggregate personalization, right? You want to take all of these small micro personalization loops and provide that complete holistic loop, right? And you want to constantly seek feedback and keep adjusting. So it's not a one-time thing. It's not like you've given a personalization and great, right? But you need to keep improving it, right? And so it's really a loop. We call it a personalization loop because you provide a personalization to the customer. You look at how they react to that recommendation you gave or the personalization feature you provided, and see how they reacted to that, and keep improving it all the time, right? You want to continuously optimize it. So, there is a shift happening more towards a macro personalization loop or an aggregate personalization loop. Now let's look at what's explore versus exploit, and that's a very important concept in personalization, right? Exploit is when you know certain things about the customer, right, based on their prior purchases history, and you provide a personalized recommendation that enables you to do upsell or cross sell, right? So you are trying to basically increase wallet share, right, by providing more recommendations that are very similar to what they've done in the past, right? And then promote upsell cross sell, which is possibly what most retailers do most of the time. But every now and then you want to explore, and that's extremely important, right? You want to figure out, nudge them to try new things, right? So if they are having the same coffee and sandwich every day, you want to nudge them to try something else, maybe a cold beverage or an entirely new beverage they've never tried before. And it's very important, because if you don't nudge them to change habits or try something new, they're going to try that with your competitor, right? And then that's when you lose the customer, right? So it's not just exploitation, but it's also exploration, right? It's also understanding, new trends, new behavior in the market, and nudge them to try new things all the time. And you can have a ratio for explore versus exploit. There is no magic rule. It could be 80-20, it could be 90-10. It really depends. But to do effective exploration, you need to do it in a scientific fashion. You need to look at what are the trends in the market. Are people drinking more oat milk or almond milk, and then map accordingly, right? You want to make sure your explorations are relevant and it aligns to your business imperative or your business goals. So that's why this is a very important concept. So people generally think of personalization through exploitation, right? Upsell, cross-sell, but it's more than that, right? It's both exploration and exploitation. Now, in terms of payoff, right? So, again, some facts and figures here, but the payoff is super clear. Again, personalization becomes table stakes, but for the right reasons, right? We are seeing 1 to 2% lift in total sales for grocery companies, and then an even higher lift for other retailers, right? So there's a clear lift. Typically, and this lift happens by driving up loyalty and share of wallet among already loyal customers. Personalization is also able to reduce marketing and sales costs by around 10 to 20%, which is a significant number when you're talking about hundreds of $1 millions in spend. And then finally, you're looking at 20% higher customer satisfaction rates, which is significant, right? And a 10 to 15% boost in sales conversion rates and an increase in employee engagement of 20 to 30%. So the payoff is clear, right? And data has shown us over and over again that this is going to stay, and innovations, more and more innovations need to happen in the personalization space. Now, in terms of challenges, right? So this is where I want to spend a bit of time because, yes, personalization is cool, right? You're able to, provide customer the right experience at the right place at the right time in the right channel. But then it's not an easy journey, right? Retailers face a lot of challenges getting there, starting with data management, right? So, to do personalization, you need to gather, you need to integrate and synthesize the customer data. And a lot of times that's not easy because, data is all over the place. It's not clean, right? And so bringing it all together, assembling it, synthesizing it appropriately, transforming it, figuring out the right features, that takes time and that takes focused effort and commitment from your leadership. Second is, your talent, right? You need the appropriate talent pool, right? You need to be able to acquire talent and then most importantly, retain that talent. A lot of times there's a huge attrition in the space, right? So it's not like you can just acquire talent. And so you have to keep them motivated. You keep them inspired. You need to have a vision, right? You need to sign them up to stick around and deliver. So there's need to be focus on talent acquisition and retention, right? So that's super important. And then there is this aspect of alignment across silos, right? In most organizations, data is, we all know that, right? Data is siloed, right? Every organization has their own data silos, and there is not enough alignment across this, right? So there has to be focused effort, right, to align across functions within your organization. And then finally, tools and technology to enable it, right? Sometimes it's not one single tool. It's a mix of many tools to bring personalization to life. And and sometimes it's about maximizing the use of what you already have in your landscape, right? So you want to maximize the investment. So I recommend start small, right? Experiment, learn before getting ambitious, right? So whatever tools you have in place, right? Maximize the use of it, right? Do experiments with it, and as you learn, right, you bring a new platform in to do personalization, right? And then you can of course evolve, but start small, scale. Fail fast, test and learn, and what works for others may not work for you, right? So in some industries, it's pretty straightforward to do product recommendations. You look at past RFM data and then you personalize based on that, but that may not always be the case, right? You might have to consider preferences more. You might have to over-index on certain features over other features, right? So it's all about learning. It's a lot of experimentation, and it's a time-consuming effort, but patience pays, right? So before you jump in, buy a platform, learn, right? Understand your customer base, understand what works, what doesn't work, maximize existing investments before you make a leap into a major investment like buying a platform, right? And building features and functions on top of it. So I would always recommend starting small and then building incrementally as you learn, right? As to what's working for your customer and what's not. Now, again, these are some basic recommendations, right? There's a lot more here, but I'll start with, 4, right? At least that's a good start. So I think the key is to build a great data foundation, right? You want to build a data management layer, right? You want to have a 360-degree view of the customer, a multi-dimensional view of the customer, right? That's paramount, right? Bring all these disparate sources to figure out what's your customer really like. what's their DNA, right? And so bring all those pieces together, create a holistic view of the customer, right, on a data foundation, right, or a data platform, right, high velocity data platform, potentially. And then the next is decisioning, right? You want to segment your customer, you want a value, you want to, come up with a customer lifetime value or a customer value, and you want to score it to do effective personalization. And then you want to have a playbook, right? You want to have campaign and content, a content catalog match with each customer, right? You want to have a playbook for each customer. Remember, this is segment of one, right? What appeals to customer A may not appeal to customer B. So you want to have different playbooks, and you want to be able to understand, dissect your customer, and be able to, trigger these campaigns, right, based on where they are in the life cycle, right? And then omni-channel engine, right? You want to have a way to prevent conflicting messages and drive value per touch point. That's a huge issue, right? So if you have, different, personalization solutions for different channels, and you're trying to, create this, send all these messages out, sometimes it creates contradictions in customers' head, right? On one end, you're getting an email message, and then you're getting a text message. You don't want that. You don't want to confuse the customer. You want to be clear in terms of exactly what you're doing, and have a compelling value prop behind it. And then finally, design, right? You want to have a cross-functional team, right, that's working on building the solution. It can also culture of test and learn, like I said before, right? That's super important. And then have the right talent. And then finally, technology enablement. So like before, you want to start going for a platform, right? Reuse what you have, maximize your current investment before pouring any more funding, right? Or going in for a major platform. Test, learn, and build personalization solutions incrementally over time. And then finally, keep testing and learning, right? You are always learning, you're always evolving, right? Customers are changing. COVID has shown you that, right? That nothing is ever fixed. We all have changed, right? We all are the vast majority of people are working from home. Our tastes have changed, our purchase patterns and change. And that makes personalization difficult, right? Because, the preferences are changing, tastes are changing. So you have to constantly evolve your solution, test and learn, and keep optimizing. It's not a one-off thing. It's something you want to invest and stick to, right? The advice for the vast number of retailers out there is to one, get started, right, if you haven't already started, because personalization is table stakes, and improve over time with effective analytics. I'll pause now for questions. Nitin, over to you.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Guys, any questions to Anup? You can type the questions as well. If you don't want to come to the stage, there's a Q&A option on the right side. You can just type in your questions, and obviously the speakers will be happy to help you all out. We'll pause for 1 minute just to see if any question is coming, Anup. Thanks a lot for the lovely presentation and showing how the personalization can be for the AI and retail e-commerce. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Nitin. Thanks, guys. And yeah, feel free to put.
There's a question from Daniel Saunders. Can you talk more about aggregate personalization at your company?
Yeah, so I can talk about some of my clients, right, without getting into specifics. But so to give you a simple example, right, in the QSR space, it starts with product recommendation, menu personalization, but beyond that, right, as the customer interacts with your brand, you are personalizing marketing, you are personalizing every touch point. So if you're on the brand's website, right, you see things that are relevant to you. If you're on the mobile app, you see a highly personalized experience. If you're a very busy customer, you get a one-click button to buy whatever it is that you're trying to buy. You're not a connoisseur. You're not going to look and browse a lot, right? So it's not just a one-off thing. It's right. It's your entire interaction with that brand, right? It starts with you just logging into that website or logging into that app, right? You see content that is specific to you or to Nitin or to someone else, right? That is highly specific, right? And then as you go from through different stages in the journey, right? It's applicable. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to throw some recommendations at this customer or do a one-off personalization or show something unique on the mobile app, but it's across the entire journey, right? And it's across channels. And most importantly, right, you want to also provide a seamless experience. So as you go from mobile through web through whatever, you want to provide a continuous, what I call an ambient experience, right? Ambient personalized experience, right? So it doesn't stop with like, okay, I've shown him a cool web page with a few things he have brought in the past. That's not cutting it, right? It's more than that. It's about personalizing every touch point, right? A recommendation, product, even payments. You can personalize payment based on how you have done payments in the past. If you know somebody's comfortable paying using a certain payment instrument, you want to help. You want to help that, right? Someone is a busy person and they don't like to browse but want to click a button and buy and be done with it. Give them exactly that, right? What's the point in giving them hundreds of choices to pick on? Because that's not who they are. That's not what the customer DNA is telling you about that customer, right? I hope that makes sense. But it's about bringing all these one-off personalization into that sum game, right? Where, in some cases, you don't have to reward the customer. In some cases, you want to reward the customer, right? It's almost like a game of chess, right? Where you have many micro personalization loops getting you to that macro personalization, ultimately with the goal of engaging the customer and giving them a very fulfilling experience and doing it responsibly, right? That's super important as well. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Hope it answers Daniel's question. Any other question, guys, before Anup goes offline after this? Anup, thanks a lot anyways. Thanks a lot. Yeah, Deepak, do you have any question to Anup?
Yeah, no, just wanted to thank Anup. It was a really great presentation. Thanks, Anup. It was very clear and concise. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you for the lovely presentation and hope to stay connected with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Bye. So, guys, next we have Ronnie Teja, who's the founder of Branzio Watches. Ronnie owns and operates a thriving e-commerce company that sells watches and related accessories across 15 websites, including Branzio.com. His team consists of around 30 employees in a dozen countries. So I'll let Ronnie do the talking, and my colleague Arvind will share the screen, what the presentation Ronnie wants to project. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. Hey, guys. How's everything?
Ronnie, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, so, most of the panelists here, they're essentially talking about, data personalization, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, I'm going to touch up a little bit more on that, but my guess is what you want to take back from this presentation that I'm going to give you are some execution things and things that I've tested over the last 7 years on our store that have actually worked for us. So if you work in e-commerce, if you work on a bunch of different things, this is basically the strategies that we took to boost the average order value size for our businesses, which of course led to an overall increase in conversions. So Arvind, if you can just get on with it. Yeah, so who am I? My name is Ronnie Teja. I've worked in e-commerce since 2011. I have an experience in working in about 15 different countries in the e-commerce market. So I was born in India. My family moved to Canada in 2008, but I was doing a PhD in London at the London School of Economics. Then I moved to Canada, to Vancouver. So my base when I'm around is basically I live between Berlin, Vancouver, and Bangkok. I'm based in Bangkok right now, where it's about 9:45 p.m. So hello from Bangkok, hello from the future. If you're in the US, yeah, I am in the future. And yeah, things that I like to do. I'm an avid squash player, and recently I've taken over stand-up comedy because I think it's fun. Yeah, moving on. Yeah, so just a little bit about Branzio. So we're a socially conscious brand. The theme of the whole watch company was to do good for people around you. It's focused on giving back to the community. And basically, the idea how I came up with this was, you can go from the ocean from your office to the mountains in about an hour, because that's what Vancouver is. It's a valley, and it's right next to the ocean. So if you want to be in your office and you want to go snowboarding, so that's how we came up with the idea. Moving on. Yeah, so the key takeaways today are three things. Hopefully, by the end of the presentation, you get that. So one is the methods that I've tried and that have worked out for us that you can implement by yourselves today. Best use cases for cross-selling and upselling in your store. Anoop talked about it a little bit, but I can just take it further in terms of the data that I have, personally speaking, which I'm happy to share with you, and the best examples you can implement. So cross-selling and upselling, I'm not going to get too much into it, but I think there's a couple of things that we need to understand. So can you just move to the next slide, please? 30 to 35% of Amazon's revenue actually comes from cross-selling and upselling. So if you look at Amazon.com, roughly about 35% of all the revenue is basically cross-selling. So, and cross-selling and upselling, you cost your company and the cost of acquisition for the customer is next to nothing. And if you layer in like personalization, what Anoop was talking about, that's a whole different ballgame. So examples of cross-selling would be, if you're looking to fly to, from Vancouver to, let's say, Portland, and, they're going to upsell you on a car rental, that's basically an example of a cross-sell, whereas an upsell is basically, if you're flying from Vancouver to Hong Kong or Vancouver to Bangkok, and you want to upgrade your class upgrade, you don't want to fly cattle class, you want to fly business class, that's an upsell. Moving on. Yeah, so these are just a couple of examples. Of course, I'm going to take it from the daddy of it all, Amazon, which is quite interesting. So thought I'd mention that out there, so you can just have some sort of a visual clue as to how they're doing it. I'm sure every one of you is on there, but it's just something that you can use as a reference. Yeah, so this is a little bit more in depth, how cross-selling and upselling and how we're actually using it. So, that Anoop had talked about this, how you're identifying the customer and how you're using different buyer personas and using a cluster approach to put them into different buyer buckets. You want to identify the products and the services that best, he was giving an example of rice, or you're talking about health conscious stores, the almond milk, or, chia seeds and all that kind of stuff that people would be more interested in. So in this case, the logic behavior, when you're looking at, if I'm buying new shoes, you'll probably need a new belt, or you probably need a new hat to match with that belt. If I'm buying linen pants for the summer, probably need a nice linen jacket for the race courses, or, and there's also the Amazon way, which is, customers who bought a Mariah Carey DVD also bought a Christina Aguilera DVD. This is quite an old example when they were still cool, but yeah, but that's what I just wanted to get that out there. Moving on. Yeah, so this is something that you guys would actually enjoy a lot more. So, it's like how are you creating personalization and a one-to-one relationship with your customer? When the user, when they're coming onto the website, you're using click, search, navigation, and buy. Pretty important. Where are you warehousing the data? How that, going back to what I said in the previous slide, which is about clusters, how you're creating those customer clusters. Amazon's really good at that. I mean, I would always recommend looking at how they are doing their things, and I'm pretty impressed with it. And of course, how you're using raw data to make it into customer intelligence. You're providing the customer with a personalization. You're providing them with something that they're interested in. So that's a crux of upsell and cross sells, right? And of course, if you're logging into your account, you want to be, we have all the data. We want to be showing things that customers are quite interested in. Next one. Yeah, so getting back to the meats and bones of the conversation, 20 tried, tested, and methods. So I'm going to give you some of the strategies that I've actually used on my store. So we grew from a 6-figure brand to an 8-figure brand in about 5 years. So this is just some of the stuff that I've used in the strategy. So if you're in e-commerce, this is a no-brainer. So in this case, there's an example. If you go to a website, you'll be able to see it, which is offering a complimentary product. We charge the customers $14 to offer a personalized product. If people want a wooden box with a name inscribed on it, people like that kind of stuff, makes it more personal. We saw conversion rate increase of about 25%, and the average order value increased by about $14 at an average, which I think is pretty interesting. Next one. This is quite interesting. So personalizing your watches, having something engraved in on the watch dial or behind the watch dial, if it's a gift. I mean, we had a customer quite recently who who was a previous customer of ours, and because they had such a good experience with this whole watch engraving thing, he was getting married. So for him and his best man, which is about 10 people, they ended up buying all the watches from us, which is quite interesting at the end of the day. So people like that personal touch and everything else, and we're offering them that option to actually personalize their watches. What we found out was the conversion rate increased by about 50%. The cost to company was only $2.50 to actually engrave each one of these watches, which I think is next to nothing. And the overall customer loyalty and repeat purchases like this, the best man at the wedding thing was about 37%. So it'd be silly not to have a personalization touch on your websites. Next. Bundling, rule of threes, quite important. This one, I'll discuss it later, but there is the rule of threes is quite important. So always keep in mind if you're doing cross-sells and upsells to put that rule of threes in the back of your mind. There is a rule of three, and the reason why a rule of three works is because if you've ever seen that show from back in the day called The Price is Right, and I'll put this in. There's a research paper about this at Harvard, and there's a couple of other research papers that been done on this. So imagine this: there's three doors, right? Door number one is your website. Door number two is your competitor's website, and door number three is essentially the upsell that you're giving them, right? So if you have, in today's day and age, I mean, in 2011 when the research was done, it would take a customer about 8 different clicks to get to your website and to end up making a purchase. Today, it's more like between 18 to 24 clicks. So that whole research journey has become even lengthier because of the short attention spans that customers have. So keep in mind when a customer is on your website, it's an excellent chance to actually upgrade and actually give them that option to be able to increase the average order value essentially. So for us, it's a pretty basic thing. Watches offer complimentary straps. Worked out for us, and increasing average order value by $18. I mean, if you go to a Michelin star restaurant at the end of the day, you won't see more than, your starters will have 3 options, your lunch will have, your mains will have 3 options, and your dessert has 3 options. There's a reason, there's a simple reason why this has happened. Too much choices gets humans confused. Moving forward, please. Yeah, upgrades, quite an easy example. This is an example from away.com where a friend of mine works. They actually saw an order average value increase by £12.50. These are 2 cases. One's like the normal carry-on, one's the bigger carry-on, as the name suggests. Quite unoriginal, but kind of makes sense. But the important thing is, I mean, you can't see it on this one, but always when you're selling an upsell, always use rounded numbers. Never suggest that a product, something that is for $29.99, make it $39.99 and $49.99. That is something that is coming across greasy in this day and age, and retailers have been doing it for quite a long time. I do it. I'm guilty of it too. But when you're doing an upsell, never, ever use a 29 versus 39 thing, because customers then start thinking about it. You want them to be able to be at a high, and they want to be able to upgrade at it. Moving on. Quantity and sizes. This is an Amazon game straight up. I mean, this is Gillette's men's razor blades. I used to buy on Amazon when I used to be in Vancouver, but now, I just buy in Bangkok. On Lazada, which is the Amazon Southeast Asia. However, if you look at it, I mean, this is relevant, not relevant to our category because nobody comes and buy multiple watches. I mean, this example of the best man I gave to you was just like a one-off thing, and that's why I remember it. So, but the thing is, it works well for fashion. It works well in certain test sectors. It'll work well for fashion. It will work well for accessories. It'll work well for razor blades. It'll work well for a bunch of other stuff. But for our category, it doesn't work. But I thought I'd mention it anyway. And this is where I was coming to you about the away.com upsell thing, which is also when you're comparing 2 products, like in this case, you don't want to have 2 prices, which is $99.99 versus $29.99. You could be using, this is a mistake I think that sort of Amazon is also making, which is like you could say have the upsell on there and list out the benefits of the product and just say for $10 more you're able to get XYZ benefits, right? Because the customer you don't want to show them the extra price, because $29.99 looks a lot bigger than what $19.99 is, and if you just put the number 10 on there, that's the magic figure. So for $10, if you show them all the benefits, it becomes a completely different ballgame. So execution-wise, it didn't work for us, but I think it's quite important for you to actually try it out. Package bundling, quite easy. Goes back to the rule of threes. Amazon does this extremely well. Frequently bought together. If you notice how Amazon does frequently bought together, remember my rule of threes. They've actually implemented. It's a psychological thing. Like, this is something I'll give you $1 million to prove me wrong any goddamn day that this rule of threes doesn't work. I've tested it out over the last 7 years. Yeah. So, and we implemented it, increased the average order value. Although we did see a lower conversion rate when ordered as an order bump. So we usually do that on product pages at the end of the day. So it doesn't work well on the add to cart page. It works well on the product page. Yeah, so this is a friend of mine. This is a coffee company. It's called Black Rifle Coffee. Subscription, they do subscriptions really well, right? You want to give them a reason why to not buy the coffee one time. You want them to subscribe. You want to give them a discount for subscribing to you. You want to give them, variable quantities and variable purchases and frequencies at what they will purchase. And at every point of time, if you go to that website, they have optimized that thing for conversion, right? Every time you go there, there is no way in God's green earth you're going to not come out of there with subscription, right? We tried this for 3 months with like strap subscriptions and everything else, but at the end of the day, our test was inconclusive. So I won't deem the test valid, but the friend of mine who owns a store, I mean, they're just making money hand over fist. I mean, I think they do about $15-20 million a year just in subscription businesses. Yeah. So here's a buy one, get one, hims and hers watches. Works really well for us. Buy his, so if you end up feeling guilty for your partner, this is a good promotion to have at the end of the day. It's a good one for your best friend's day or, siblings day or something else like that. So that is an extremely good promo for us that we'll be able to convert it. So we always take our top sellers, we take our top 10 sellers, mix and match them, see how it works out. And BOGO works extremely well, be it on email or be it even on your product pages. So, for example, the data is here: $50 increase in average order value, conversion rates have $2.5%, and hims and hers, siblings. Like I give you an example. I mean, you can explore more options like that and mix and match upsells. Yeah. Moving on. What is insurance? Let me tell you a story. It is pure profit. There is no way on God's green earth that you go to Best Buy and then you take that Geek Scout protection plan and then you make a full use of it. Does anybody who buys that plan for $250 actually end up going back after 2 years for the support? There's no way. I mean, Best Buy, that is pure profit for Best Buy out there. Customers love the peace of mind. They come to your store, they deserve the best. But this is something that I've seen. I mean, I'd almost go to that way of saying, okay, I'm a customer, I deserve the best, so of course I'm going to end up buying this insurance. But at the end of the day, tell you what, you go there, let's say you buy a MacBook Pro, you'll probably get it repaired once or twice. The cost to company is about $100, but Best Buy is pocketing $150 on top of it. That's just pure profit for them at the end of the day. But they've given you peace of mind that if anything ever happens, then you can do that. There's one company that does it actually better than Best Buy, and you don't need to actually pay for this kind of stuff, is Apple. So, I mean, I'm speaking from experience. I mean, I'm really clumsy and I sort of, drop my laptop and stuff. And they've actually never charged me over the last 4 years for any repairs to my MacBook. So keep that in mind. So there's a difference on how customer service works. I think Apple's is a lot better than Best Buy's. So, just putting it out there. This is another thing about this whole issue, which I've noted. It's like it's the bad customer experience, because we tried to do a guarantee over watches. Our watches are guaranteed for 2 years plus. And then we offered them an upsell for another $100 that you can guarantee it for life, et cetera, et cetera. It was a poor customer experience. And one of the pillars of our company is basically customers always going to be first, customers always right, and do what's in the best interest of the customers. So that was not actually done properly. So that's why we put this test offline. So I apologize for that. Yeah. Okay. Gift wrapping and priority shipping. This is quite interesting. And the reason why I say it's interesting is because when I look at something position, it's all about positioning. So in this case, I'm giving you an example of, I mean, I don't know how many if like whiskey, but I'm a whiskey drinker. So it's like, we got the 12-year-old Macallan Sherry Oak, wanted to send my dad something for Father's Day that just happened. So of course, there's options that I have here. I want to send him a message, hey Dad, happy Father's Day, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And of course, they're going to charge me $4.99 for that. I mean, I just came across this website and I thought, hey, it's a good fit for my presentation, because I was, they'll write a card for you. That's $4.99, which I could handwrite myself. And the card's next to nothing, and it's a handwritten note from me. And of course, they're going to gift wrap it. So now you got to pay $9.99. But I thought it was a great upsell option, because I'm in Bangkok and my dad's in Vancouver, so there's no way to get it to him, and I needed to get to him the next day, because of course I was going to forget it. So seasonal holidays, we do something similar where we engrave your boxes, and we are able to do priority shipping, etc. And people in the US are, of course, getting used to the 2-day shipping model by Amazon. So we have to have that sort of backup option for it. So it does increase your average order value by 44%, like we saw, and the cost, the test itself generated about $10 in uplift in terms of average order value. Sampling upsells, you guys see this on The Economist. You've seen this on, I took New Yorker as an example. There's something quite interesting about this thing. So at Harvard did a case study about print, digital, and print of what option people are going to get, right? So 84% actually opted in for the print and digital one, right? Only 16% opted in for digital, and print was actually at 0. So that's crazy, right? So we tried something similar. Depends on what your cost of goods are, what your customer lifetime value is. That's something that you need to analyze and come back and find out what the cost to company is in terms of that. We tried it; it was irrelevant to us. So I can't give you much data about it, but it's something that I would say it's worth trying depending on the sector that you're in. Something important when you are doing an upsell, be it bundling, be it an upsell, be it a cross-sell, et cetera, it's always important to copy test your captions, right? So we've tried a few things. I mean, for us, right now we're using anything trending now because it's every social media outlet is using it. However, rated people also bought. You may also like. So copy testing is pretty important when you're doing your upsells, cross-sells, or anything else. A lot of people forget that. People usually use frequently bought together, and that's it. My life is done, and that's it. We usually run a test for about 6 weeks. And from there, we take the data and then we move on. So that's why trending now is working for us. We're seeing an uplift in the conversions, and then that's why we've chosen it. But for different products, different sectors, different e-commerce shops, it's completely different. So I suggest you actually keep this in mind. Like your copy matters a lot. And of course, personalization, as the speaker Anup was saying before me, quite important. I can't give you the data. Just don't take what I'm saying to you, as law. It's something that you have to test yourself and find out what is going to be important for you, right? Order bumps. So when I use the word order bump, it's basically when you get to the add to cart page. What our data has indicated is less choice was better. Same thing, rule of threes, right? This is from Black Rifle Coffee. Pretty easy there, right? I was going to buy the coffee club, the ground beans from them. Not 4 bags, but that was one. That's a mistake, just in case. But you can also see that they're doing a couple of different upsells here, which is quite interesting. So they have stickers. I mean, these stickers are not supposed to cost you more than $2, but they're selling it for $10, which is, and I know for a fact that they actually donate to the veterans in the community as well, which is quite interesting. Of course, donating to a charity is another one where, I think Shopify and a couple of other e-commerce platforms have that option where you can actually tip the customer service guys, or you can tip somebody on the way out, which actually works quite well as well. Or if you have a charity to support. So, for example, we support the tigers in the Sundarbans and the elephants in Southern Africa. So elephants and rhinos, because I keep it quite close to my heart because I actually saw them getting poached when I was there. So that's something where we give the option, whatever our yearly profits are, 5% goes to, helping keep these species safe. What we also saw was something quite interesting in terms of the data. When you look at, let's say in this case, the coffee club, the ground is like $44. I am not going to try and upsell you a product that is $54, $64. I'm not even going to try and upsell you a product that is $34 or $35. I'm going to sell you a product that's worth $19 or even $15 or less. And if you look at the price point that these guys have, it's a $10 sticker, and it's like a $5 donation or a $1.50 donation that you're going to be giving to the community. You don't always rule of thumb. You can any e-commerce website, the upsell that you're doing on the order bump page has to be 50% to 60% less of the product that the customer is ending up buying. This is a personalization choice. This is you can look at Baymard, you can look at Forrester, you can look at any of those research papers. They'll say the same thing. And I'm just telling you because I tested it out, I've seen it in action, and then I've read it somewhere else. So it's a rule of thumb. Yeah. So it's one of the most effective methods for you to upsell and cross-sell your products. I don't know if you're doing it today, but you should be doing it. Next, please. Yeah. Now, quite interesting. Not a lot of people use upsells on thank you page. This is like your real estate that always will go ignored. And I don't know why people don't do it, because we've actually increased the average order value of all our customers by 20% by just simply having a offer on the thank you page. So after the payments are made, we would actually be able to show this to them. So when you have we always end up showing a larger value on the second discount. I think that is quite important for them. Sorry, somebody on there. Yeah, so when you end up showing a larger order value discount, I think it's important to give them some sort of FOMO. Yes, giving them some sort of FOMO, or giving them some sort of like time sensitive offer at the end of the day. I think it's pretty important. And another thing that I find is quite important is, when a customer has completed the purchase process, when you're going through the purchase process, because the customer is coming off pressing that, the buy button, and the amount of euphoric value, the dopamine that's been released, they add a euphoric high. That's a very psychological thing. So to offer them another thing to buy after that, the highest peak of actually being able to buy, the customer choice is already in that mindset to buy, then you are going to get to the next level. So is there somebody here who has the mic on, please? Because it's really bothering me at the moment. Sorry. Yeah. And sorry about that, guys. And that's quite important. And and if they end up declining the offer at the end of the day, and if a customer ends up declining your offer, you can always reach out to them by some email automation. So I think that's quite important. Next slide, please. Yeah, quizzes. Not a lot of you guys use quizzes, because I think most of you guys are enterprise guys, right? So, or I don't know how many of you guys are actually using SMEs and everything else, but quizzes is by far the most effective way of capturing your emails, capturing your leads, and at the end of the day, emailing them an offer and using a discount to give them a time-sensitive offer. I've given an example of my buddy here from beard brand, Eric Bandholz, lives in Austin. He's built a $6 million business selling beard balm and shaving creams, basically. Sure, he's going to double it up after COVID. But extremely important. He's one of the guys who does quizzes extremely well and captures the leads and is able to do all that stuff extremely, extremely well. So highly suggest you have a look at his site for some sort of examples if you want. He's a great guy. If you want to reach out to him, I would highly recommend it. Downsells. Now, here's an interesting thing. I've given you the upsells of everything, the cross sells, blah, blah, blah. But why would you want to downsell a customer? I think when you're going to downsell a customer, we've tried this before, you're giving the audience a choice. You're giving them you're not targeting, a share of wallet of people who want to buy between $100 to $150. You might want to get the guy who's selling for $49.99, right? But you want to reach as many people as possible. Try your product. Goes back to sort of sampling as well. And at the end of the day, think about Amazon and think about the loss leader strategy. This is a classic example of how they get you through the door, get all your data, get you to sign up, and then you keep going back there no matter what happens, right? It's just getting it's just getting that foot in the door till you feel comfortable. There's a lot of competition out there in whatever niche you're in, but that is one way that you're going to get more customers than anybody else. And once you get used to your customer service, once they get used to your pillars, once they get used to that ideology, then it's just you can just scale from there. Yeah, and you can always upsell them long term via email and cross sells and upsells, right? I mean, I have a friend of mine who sells, I think their cost of acquisition for a customer is $80. The product itself sells for $80, but then they sell them on subscriptions of various other products like the supplements, etc. So the average the customer lifetime value is actually $200 plus, and the cost of acquisition is only $80. So it's like they just get them through a foot in the door, and then they're able to scale it from there. Yeah. Yeah. So data analysis is what I look for, because you guys seem like a bunch of analysts, and you like your analytical data. So CAC is cost of acquisition for your customer versus customer lifetime value. Or always take 24 months as a period of choice. So your customer lifetime value always has to be more than your cost of acquisition. My tests usually run between 21 and 30 days for anything that I do. This is just my methodology. And I always check for upsell rates, conversion volumes, and just the customer volumes at the end of the day, like how many people are coming in through the door, et cetera, et cetera. And always monitor your customer feedback quite closely, right? How many emails are you sending them? Are you spamming them? Are you getting how many touch points are you giving your customers at time? Are you helping them out? What does your welcome series flow look like? Are you sending them something which is an upsell? Probably not. Be like, hey, welcome. This is who we are. This is what we do. If you need anything, we're always here in the background. We'd never upsell to our customers via email for the first 30 days. We just send them content and helpful stuff to help them out. And then when there's a sale, we'll probably help them out. But we don't usually we don't want to dilute that whole process. Yeah, so if you want ideas for your cross-sells and upsells and product testing ideas, I have a few if you want to know. Yeah, so you can always determine categories. I've given you some examples of whatever industry you're in. It's important to actually look at, you want to put the right product in the right place. If you have personalization, well and good. If you don't have personalization, you can do it manually. Of course, in this case, you're looking at, car rental, hotel reservation, and tickets. And the second thing would be is equal to, you want to determine what are your most valuable categories, and you can, of course, see, okay, where do you want to put your car rental and your best-selling car rental product? What step of the journey of the customer do you actually want to be it to be in? Do you want to text image upsell? Do you want to text only upsell? What sort of advertising are you using to actually upsell the customer? So you want a smooth shopping experience, because at any point of time, if you're creating friction, and this is a mistake I've made a lot of times, customers are just going to run away. The customer is not a fool. Treat the customer like your better half. Right? Treat the customer like your partner, because at some point in time, they'll know that you're fooling around with them, and then they're going to leave and they're going to post a bad review about you. So be very careful about this whole process. I mean, I've seen people who started the e-commerce stores, especially people in Asia, where they just blatantly just put an offer in your face and they just said, okay, this is it. And you know what? Customers don't trust that. They want genuinity. And in this day and age of Amazon, you're competing with Amazon basically, and you're a small e-commerce store. They want genuineness. They want people at the forefront being able to give you this sort of personal experience. So I think that hand-holding experience, I think, is quite important. Yeah. So I'm just going to skip this, but you can read it for yourself. So you can look at the Forrester. It's interesting. I'm going to post this online so you can actually check it out later, because I don't want to waste my next speaker's time. So, yeah. The summary that I just want to get into, 3 things I want to leave you with. Customer experience and personalization when cross-selling is extremely important. So personalization, I've given you the method on how to do it. You don't want to come across as desperate. Just an example that I gave you. Don't be a used car salesman. Don't be greasy. Your customers are going to find out. So don't dilute your own process. And of course, lowest hanging fruits, that's the most important part of this presentation. Use your add to cart or your order bump page carefully. Use your thank you page and upsell phrase carefully. I use a couple of tools. One is Just Uno, which is good for cross-sells and upsells. And then I use Klaviyo, which is for email marketing and e-commerce. Can't speak enough about them. So yeah, if you have an e-commerce store or something else like that, these are the 2 tools I'd recommend to you. And Shopify, which is of course something that I use for the CMS platform. It's a great Canadian company. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Ronnie. Amazing presentation and lovely ideas. I was closely listening to all your 20 ideas, and the summary, I think, makes up for that. Thank you. Guys, any questions to Ronnie? Because he will be leaving after his presentation. So any questions? I'll give you 1 minute.
Yeah, so this is Rishi, right? So Ronnie, I have a question for you. I know you are in rush right now. So what kind of tools you used when it comes to getting more details around the personalization or about targeting individual customer segment?
Yeah, look, you can reach out to me later on LinkedIn, right? You can just Google Ronnie Teja. I'll be on there. So I can answer this question in detail. I assume there's an upsell coming here.
Yes. Right. Okay.
This is a forum to share knowledge, not to upsell each other.
No. There's nothing like that. Okay. Take care, buddy.
You guys good?
There's a appreciation for you, Ronnie. Thank you. Very informative, especially the $10 idea.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to help, guys. All right. Off to bed for me. Have fun.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you, Ronnie. Take care. I know it's nighttime. Enjoy. Have a lovely weekend for you. So, guys, I know we are on time for the panel discussion, the break. I didn't take a break because Ronnie was going at a fast speed and he was giving lots of ideas to you. So let's start with the panel discussion. I think that will be better because we have all the panelists with us. Maybe have every one of you on the stage. I think we all are there. Yeah, Rishi is there, Sunanda, Deepak, Sumaya. So Sumaya is having some issues with her video, so she will not be there. But otherwise, she will be online.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
So why not we just introduce yourself, all 4 panelists, and then we can take this discussion forward. Obviously, the agenda for the panel discussion, all of you must be knowing what's the future for AI in retail and e-commerce sector. So we can have one by one, each of one of you share your ideas. We can start with any one of you. If you want to go in order, we can do that. Otherwise, you all can start on your own. We can start with Somaya, then Rishi, then Deepak, then Sunanda.
Okay. Sure. Thank you so much, Nitin. So I'm really glad to be here, and thanks again for having me again after a month. I'm glad to engage with your audience and also to be part of this awesome panel. A little bit about my background. I have been in industry for 12 plus years. I have worked across 4 continents and have managed team across all 7 continents. I have a unique blend of experiences working with Fortune 50 companies as well as technology startups. Currently, I'm based in North America, specifically in Canada, and I'm leading talent and transformation for a SaaS fintech company for both their US as well as Canadian operations. In terms of my technology background, I come with a combination of software engineering as well as business and MBA and MS degrees from various parts of the world, including US and Europe. And I'm very fortunate that Nitin has reached out to me again to be part of this panel discussion. And I'm really looking forward to engaging with the participants and all of you here as well. So thank you. And I'll pass it over to Deepak, Sundana, or Rishi, whoever wants to take it from here for the intros.
Sure. Maybe I can talk next. So again, good morning for me, and good evening and good morning for everyone who are on the audience or on the panel side. I'm Deepak. My journey started with a software engineering background, and I primarily worked as like a core technical guy into more programming and coding side, and then slowly switching towards the managerial experiences. So, and then finally, I got like a couple of degrees in engineering, and then masters in information science and MBA. So currently, I'm working as a product manager with a healthcare firm here in Pittsburgh, US. So with around 10 years of experience and in technology, and then 2 to 3 years of experience in building AI ML products. And that's why I'm here. And thanks for having me here, Nitin.
Absolutely. Pleasure. Yeah. Thank you, Deepak. Rishi.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin. And great to meet all of you, right? I'm based out of US, and I'm working for a global company named Pacted Edge. I'm working as an associate vice president and helping few of the retail CPG customers. I have been with retail CPG industry from a long time, and I actually supported most of the retailers in the US. If I have to take a few names like Walmart, CVS, Shears Holding, Kroger, all are pretty much global retailers. Booz the Chemist. Yes, I think means I was also there in the last event when Nitin invited me to speak on AI the future of AI in retail and e-commerce, and I think this is the second opportunity for me to speak in this forum. So thank you, Nitin, for that, and looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Sunanda.
Hello, thank you, Nitin. Great pleasure being part of this group and this community. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be part of this. Super excited. A little about me. So I'm a senior director of data science at CVS. Here you've interacted there, Rishi. And I lead pharmacy personalization there. So I manage analysts and data scientists and engineers who build personalization engines that is striving to basically convert CVS just from a neighborhood prescription filler to a true healthcare partner, right? So how do we really message every single patient, really find out where they are, and how can we push the agenda in terms of helping them in their path to their health using analytics? Like that's what I do. And my background before this, I was leading personalization and recommendation teams and strategy for Wayfair for all of their storefronts, so all their brands and sites and marketing channels, figuring out how best we can build a scalable personalization platform and recommendation platform. And that was an excellent ride where both from a perspective of creating from the ground up the team and also, figuring out how to make this work with hundreds and thousands of catalog items at scale at ridiculously fast speeds. And my journey in applied data science started at a tech startup here in Boston, where I was looking at the core product of the ad tech startup was optimizing bids for advertisements. So, and my role there was to figure out what could be some new analytics products that we could come up with based on all of that data that's flowing through. So again, the same personalization, retail, e-commerce kind of background. And I think over these 10 years, it's been fascinating to see where the industry has gone and what role AI and data science has played. So I'm super excited, particularly about this topic, to sort of exchange ideas on where we think it could go, because I think, especially in the last year, things have changed so much, and I think there's a big role for AI to play here. Yeah, I'll pause there, and we can get started.
Yeah, please get started, guys. So the top agenda obviously is the future of AI in retail and e-commerce. So any one of you can share the experience. I think Sunanda, what she told at the last thing, obviously COVID has changed a lot of things in every industry. So what do you think, what can be the journey this year going forward till December? What do you feel how AI will drive the industry, especially in retail and e-commerce? Please share your experience. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Should I start, guys? So to me is in the upcoming years, right? Whether we talk about 2022 till 2025, if we take a roadmap for the upcoming 5 years, because all these global retailers are not looking just for the 1 year when they're building these initiatives. These are like 5 to 7 year long initiatives. Like the benefits they want to reap like within those upcoming years. So if to me it's like in 4 areas, right? One is definitely on the customer experience at omni-channel side of it, right? Whether it's on the e-commerce side of it or it's a brick and mortar store side of it, right? So how they get a better customer experience and engagement on the all customer touch points, right? That's one. Second is how they can improve efficiency and have better operational excellence within the next gen supply chain, right? Because end of the day, you are talking about fulfillment, for these SKUs, the products on the shelves, and they have to make sure that all these new convenience capabilities which are in place, for example, buy online, pick up in a store, or you buy online, ship at a home, the many, right? You have to make sure that end of the day, the item should be present on the shelf when any customer is in the store or on the e-commerce website, right? And third is right, which is very important, how they can make sure the talent which they're building in house, right, whether it's at IT or it's at the store level, like store associates, right, how they can get more engaged with the customers, plus how their learning and development would be possible over the period of time. So I think these are like big areas where these initiatives would be focusing on, where companies are spending their time and effort, right? I think this is the starting point where we can have the conversation as well as a discussion in this way.
I will take on and build on what Rishi has just said. And Sandhana, during her introduction, made certain points. I would like to definitely know more about those. She said that she was involved with Wayfair personalization and recommendation systems. And those are some of the upcoming technologies within AI, and their use in e-commerce and retail has been started for past couple of years, but I see a lot of opportunities in those areas. So for example, I would like to give certain industry statistics for upcoming years, and then we will take from there that how some of these technologies which Sandhana Rishi has mentioned would be enabling and also enhancing the e-commerce sector by the use of AI. So according to Statistica, the retail sales are projected to be around $30 trillion by 2023. And according to NASDAQ, 95% of those purchases will be facilitated by e-commerce by 2040. Now, I want to make a really important point here that people think that once AI will come in, and many people in many industries, including e-commerce and retail sector, have this idea, they will replace humans altogether. My understanding is that I would think that a model which is supported and augmented by AI in collaboration with humans would be more successful. But of course, we can have more conversation and discussion around it. And with that, I would like to give an example of use of predictive analytics and big data, which has already been started in past couple of years, but it's taking momentum right now. So for example, when you go on any of the sites, I will give example of Flipkart, for example, or Amazon.com, and users start looking around different products. Soon they start seeing different suggestions or different recommendations, because actually at the back end, there is predictive analytics, which is keeping a track of shopping patterns of that user. And a very specific example of that, which is currently in use within the industry, is Google Duplex tool. This tool is developing capabilities like creating grocery lists and based on, of course, processing user natural language, which we also call natural language processing in AI terms, and even placing online shopping orders in some cases. So that is a pretty advanced technology, even if we think about recommendation systems or personalization systems. And if I quickly touch based on personalization and recommendation systems, so for example, once you go on Amazon.com, you just look around, which we call in general terms window shopping, and then you start receiving certain pages or certain suggestions on the basis of your window shopping. And that's where the AI tools for personalization and product recommendations are already employed. But with the increase in data and with more focus on big data and analytics, I think those systems will definitely get better with every passing day. I will take a pause there and I will hand it over to some other panelists, but I do have quite a few other examples that how AI and their specific uses are enhancing right now the e-commerce and retail industry, and would definitely take it to a next level in coming few years.
Yeah, I think that really makes sense. And when you said about when Nitin talks about like how COVID is disrupting the current space, what I was thinking and what I have felt in my current organization, that the data which we were using to build our models, that is like completely disrupted in the due to COVID scenario, right? So, for example, I was building healthcare product for my organization. Now like a lot of patients who had little bit problem, they used to go to see a doctor. Now they're not going to, I mean, they were not going to see a doctor, right? A lot of people who are not going out, they are not, I mean, it's good thing that they're not getting any illness or any accident, but now we have very less data related to all those incidences, right? So now since we have the one complete year data is completely distorted, it is really difficult for us to build models, right? Because it will not be a predictive of the future, because in future the markets will open and it will be completely different scenario. So what we did, like we just completely skipped over 1 year of data. That's what we could do. And we took like any data before 2019 to build our models. So yeah, I mean, that's how I feel personally, how COVID has disrupted to the like model building level in my work, in my organization.
Yeah, so true, Deepak, and I think I can build on that because that is something we face day to day, right? And especially at CVS, where along with the vaccine distribution work, things have just like and it's fascinating though when you talk about how the data is disrupted, and your point, like how do you solve for it, right? What we have found is I want to touch on that and then touch a bit more on some of the other broader topics of where we think this could go. The challenge of like what you mentioned, which would be the sort of the way the not most straightforward way, but sort of the only tangible way in which we could account for this kind of disrupted data is to like ignore the data and try to build on it. But by doing that, the flip side of it is we lose out on some changing behavioral patterns, right? Just because of COVID, for example, a lot of the customers, to your point, have moved over to delivery or have moved over to lesser, more consolidated ways in which they can come into the store and pick up their scripts, or various different kinds where they are optimizing in their own way their reaction to the pandemic. And if I completely ignore that whole 1 year of data and then use the previous one to predict 2022, I'm going to predict based on how people behaved before the pandemic. So that is and it's not an easy problem to solve.
Yeah.
We don't know which is the true signal and which is not. Yeah. So when you really get into the weeds, it becomes like you literally have to start mining the patterns and see, is there any pattern emerging during the pandemic? Is there something that I can latch onto, which is indicative of what things could come in 2022? Because that's definitely something we are seeing, like a huge drift in the way people are thinking about it. And it's the same in grocery, right? Like I myself as a customer have only recently gone back to the store. I've predominantly just been using online fulfillment. Same. And now that I'm going back to the store, it's a mixed bag. Like there are some things and some times when I want to go into the store because I want that serendipity. I want to be able to walk the aisles, figure out new things. Where most of my regular ones, I'm like, I don't even want to spend the 3 hours that it'll take me doing grocery shopping. Exactly. That I have the convenience and things are getting better. So how am I going to capture all of that behavior in my predictive model? I don't have answers, but I think it's very interesting from a data science perspective because you have to start using some interesting techniques that will help you mine these patterns and then make sense out of them.
Right. So, and like how to predict like which whatever pattern has emerged, whether it will sustain or not. Exactly. after 2 years. It's very difficult. I mean, you cannot deploy another predictive model to predict a predictive model. There's a lot of manual labor here. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that connects the point that Sumaya was saying around the interaction between humans and AI, right? This is where domain expertise matters. This is where the feedback we get from pharmacists in the store matters. I cannot build the model in vacuum just by looking at the data and saying, okay, the pattern has changed. Boom, this is what it should look like. The pharmacists, when we send out surveys or things, they tell us very, very important information around, hey, actually like in CVS, it's a very neighborhood kind of model, right? So actually people around know their pharmacist in CVS. They especially the elder population. So they will be like, oh, my regular elder population, you know what? They have certain times in the day. They have marked it. They always come in because they are not comfortable doing anything online. So those kind of insights really helps us make sense of the data. And I think that human it's not the traditional human in the loop, but that kind of how do you make operating models where you're constantly getting back some human information and I think companies that do that well are going to see the biggest bang for their buck. Because if you completely ignore that, you the data will fool you, is my conviction, right? Because it's just going to reflect what is happening in the door without a pure cause or reason behind it. So 100% what Sumaya said, that it's not like models are going to completely replace pharmacists. No, it's just going to find ways in which AI can build tools for the pharmacist or the salesman or for whoever it is on the floor to become better at their service, right? And I think that's where the power of AI comes from.
Right.
I would like to build on that, which, Deepak and Sanjana has just said. So Sanjana rightly said that we have to take that information through human-machine interaction, whether it's through natural language processing or some other way, because sometimes we have to recheck the data reliability as well as to validate that whether the data or information which we have at hand, it is still relevant in the current scenario. And just to build on that, like we, for example, talk about personalization of the shopping experience for the customers or recommendation systems or recommender systems. But like there are companies, big giants, and I'm sure that you guys are involved on day-to-day basis with some of those tasks, which are going even one step further, and they are offering localization of customer experience as well. So for example, if you're using the same store, which is Amazon.com, because everyone knows about Amazon. So if you're using Amazon.com in one part of the US, which is East Coast or West Coast, and if you're using the same Amazon.com website within the same country, which is US, and if you're using it on East Coast, you will see different type of products, references, or recommendations from the same store. and you will find different type of recommendations if you are on the West Coast. So that is the concept of localization of user experience or customer experience, which is again enabled by this data collection, but it is even one step further on top of your personalization or recommendation system. So I think that using data smartly and then recollecting it at every single touch point whenever feasible and whenever required is very important. Another point which I would like to highlight, and I would like to build on what Sanjana has said, that it's very important that people understand that in retail and e-commerce sector specifically, at least the way I see it on the basis of a lot of application, there is no way that we can completely eliminate the human factor. So for example, many people thought that when robots will be here, they will be replacing human beings completely at the back end in the warehouse operations. Well, warehouse automation and inventory management system is there. I wouldn't say that it's completely in the future, especially inventory management for a lot of big giants is like, for example, whether it's Walmart, Amazon, Flipkart, a lot of other companies. It's already there. When it comes to warehouse automation, it is, I would say there are robots which are being used for picking up the stuff, for reshelving the for not only projecting the inventory levels, but also for reshelving the stores, for wrapping up stuff. So there are capabilities. But if we say that they are 100% accurate as humans are or human warehouse workers are, first of all, we are still not there. And I would really like to hear my fellow panelists' opinions there. And then secondly, even in future, the way I see it, I think that we would be strongly relying on data science or big data and all those data models. But again, we cannot replace the warehouse workers completely. We can only augment them, and especially if I bring into this pandemic situation into the picture. So during pandemic, we have seen that how we have struggled as a society in finding those warehouse workers or frontline workers, as we called them. And probably those will be the scenarios where we would be replacing the human factor completely just because we have to, not because we can, just because we have to because of that situation. But I would really like to, from here, I would just pass it on to other panelists to hear their thoughts more on the warehouse automation and some of the technologies which are already there and some of the technologies which we are anticipating in next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, so I will build on that, Sumanya. And you brought really good points, like multiple good points, okay? And I'll take one by one. So first thing what Sumanya said, right, about the data accuracy, right? Definitely data accuracy is a key for building any model. And if everybody knows, like there are 5,000 plus type of bias available, right? So when you're building those data, you are curating and rotating these data, right? Or doing building any kind of a data slicing and dicing piece. End of the day, humans are doing it, and they involve their biases into the data itself, which eventually go further in the models, and the results and outcomes are not accurate, right? So that's a one thing. Second thing is, so definitely we need to have some governance across this, right? We need to have AI governance, and a lot of companies are actually working on that, how to make sure that the AI biases are not in their AI models, right? Second part, what she mentioned about the localization, right? So all these retailers, either talk about Amazon, Walmart, like these are the global retailers. They have local presence in different other international markets. So there again, this data prep is really necessary because every local country has their own rules, regulations, experiences, policies, and procedures, right? You have to make sure the experience is defined based on that demographics. If I'm talking about Mexico, that has a different experience, rather I'm talking about US, or I'm talking about India or South Africa, right? So you have to work, and then there are different managed platforms, crowdsourced platform, which actually help you to build those kind of data sets, right? You can actually get those kind of images, speech, different kind of data pieces. You can annotate them, curate them, and use those local driven data sets in your models to get the right outcome on that, right? So, and third is like when you talk about warehouse management system. So to me, see, humans are not going away. It is all about building these initiatives with a human-centric approach, right? Leveraging the human piece as a judges in the process. Okay, so they might not be doing the, anything which is blue collar work could be automated, right? But anything which is more smart, where judgment is required, decision is required, could be driven by the humans. I think these are the 3 points I would like to add top of what Sumanya said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really great points and additions, Rishi. And while our fellow panelists were talking, I was thinking of and also the presentation which we had before this panel discussion. We have talked a lot about the business side and how AI will impact the retail and how COVID is impacting the AI in retail. So I just prepared like a quick short presentation just for so that I can share with the audience like what are the different technologies which are used behind AI in retail and where all those technologies are utilized, so that we get a feel of like, okay, how different technologies are different, but everything comes under the same AI umbrella. So Nitin, if you want to share,
please.
okay, let me share it. Yeah. Entire screen.
Yes.
You can see it.
Not till now.
Okay. Did I share already? Share.
Entire screen.
Permissions to use screen share is missing. Please give a screen share access. So maybe Arvind will have to give me screen share access.
Arvind, can you just check?
Can I share the screen?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, so we can just skip initial few slides maybe because we have already talked, and then I've already introduced myself, my current organization, and then other things. Yeah, so if anyone wants to connect with me, we have all the I have all my links and emails and other things here, and website and all. So yeah, let's go to the next one, and I will quickly talk about what are the 4 key ML technologies that being used in retail, their applications, and their real world examples. Okay, so let's go to and I'll just make it pretty quick. So 4 key technologies from AI and ML which we are using are like computer vision, natural language processing, clustering, which is unsupervised, and then advanced logistic regression. So I'll quickly go through them one by one and just give you some examples where we are using these technologies. So in the next slide, we will see what is the technology which is being used. And maybe before that, I can, if Arvind, you can help with the poll here, that will be really helpful.
Yeah, it's live already.
Oh, okay, great, sure. So, okay, we can go to the presentation. So here, I don't know how much technically advanced our audience is, and even I am not that much, but just I try to collect a little bit of points here. So the technology, which is the primary technology in computer vision, which we use is convolutional neural network. If you want to explore more about it, you can find out. I'm just giving a starter kind of here, like the starting points, if you want to know more about the technology and where these are getting used. And what are the uses of computer vision? So we have customer recognition. So let's say you walk into the store and then you start getting your personalized recommendations based on the customer recognition technology which is installed in the store. for example, Rite Aid already tried this to detect the shoplifting cases in New York. Like they kind of, and again, as Rishi said, a lot of biases were introduced into the data, due to which the system was detecting kind of those customers also which are not risky. So these, and then we have Verif here as an example, and I have linked all these company names and videos and websites if our audience wants to explore more about these. We use computer vision in the cashierless store, and we know everyone of us must be aware of Amazon Go. We do not have any queues, we do not have any cashiers, no one bills at the store. You just go, pick up the item and walk away, and everything is billed. Third is deepfakes. So deepfakes is nothing but kind of face swapping, I would say. So you would have seen that video, maybe former President Obama talking about different things which are not related to kind of politics. So again, how these are used. So deepfakes can be used in marketing campaigns, right? So for example, and this link here, the Zalando campaign, this company, what did it do? It kind of made one marketing video from one celebrity and customized that video for at least 100 to 200 different local cities around Europe, right? Not only cities, to even villages. And that video was converted into different languages, and even the lip movement was synced according to that particular language. So now even a person sitting in one particular remote village will also be able to relate to this particular advertisement, to advertisement. They will not think, okay, this is only in English, this is not for me, or something of that sort. And again, we have
there's a question: wouldn't that be illegal? Deepfakes.
Yep. So deepfakes is illegal if you are kind of imitating and recreating some, like, let's say, politician statements and of that sort. But again, as Rishi said, if something of AI governance of kind of thing comes in place, so I think deepfakes can be pretty much utilized. And maybe if we have time, we can open this link, this URL, and find out how the deepfake is being utilized. So let's say you have one celebrity who has allowed for permission that okay, his or her video can be changed into different languages for different localizations, then I don't think it is illegal. And if someone says that current president is talking something about politics, which he has not actually talked about, then that is illegal. So again, the AI governance will have to come in picture to judge it like legal and illegal. But as far as marketing is concerned, I don't think it is illegal if we have the companies and celebrities consent to it. I hope that answers the question. Moving to the next point, we have virtual fitting rooms. Like if we go to some of the stores, and I have seen this in Korea, that in some of the shopping malls, you can just pick up the item on your mirror and it will just give you like it will give you an live image as if you are wearing that cloth and how you are looking in that particular apparel. Similarly, we have online shopping, again related to retail. So you just click a picture of an item and Pinterest will suggest you what are the what other items similar to that picture is available on different retail stores, ranging from Amazon, Walmart, and IKEA, right? So you can just click a picture and start shopping from right there. If you really like a product at a friend's house, let's say you like a lamp, you like a sofa at your friend's house, or in some maybe in some restaurant, you just click a picture and then it will start suggesting you where you can buy it. So completely revolutionized way of making purchase here. For the shopping, again, IKEA, if you will open this link, you will find out how IKEA has implemented virtual reality. You go to the store, they give you a VR headset, and now you have your whole room in front of you. You can pick and choose which item you want to pick where, and you can customize the whole look of your living room and then buy the items accordingly. So all these items, all these latest advancements are only possible due to the computer vision technology which we have in AI. Let's go to the next one. And now I will like little bit move forward quickly, not take a lot of time here. So natural language processing. Again, we have recurrent neural networks which are implemented for natural language processing. And what are the use cases? I think we already know about it. Companies like Alexa and then IBM Watson, they are, for example, Alexa, you can directly shop through Alexa without even logging to your Amazon app, right? You can just say Alexa, and then Alexa will give you information based on your previous purchase history, based on your shopping behavior, and then you can just make the purchase from right there. Sentiment analysis, you have a lot of reviews and like comments about different products. So IBM Watson and Cloud Factory are some of the companies which provide sentiment analysis solutions to different organizations if they really want to understand their customers in little more detail, right? Again, live chat and intelligent bots. Acquire is one of the company who is kind of providing these solutions, and we have been seeing the chatbots and intelligent bots as like from long time now. So it is one of the most traditional usage of very basic machine learning, but now it is getting more intelligent. It is getting emotions these days, like baked into its conversations.
So Deepak, I'll just interrupt for a bit, right? Means even my company, Pacterage, we are helping a couple of few retailers in all these categories, right? We're building the sentiment analysis based on the AI and CCTV cameras placed could help to understand whether the customer, when he's moving outside the store, whether he's happy or he's sad or he's neutral based on the expressions captured with
right
the
so
CCTV footage.
Yeah, is there the network problem on my side or?
No, I think Deepak, all is well.
I think it's all of us, because I was unable to understand Rishi or hear part of it.
This is
I would like
side,
to add here, Deepak, on what you have just mentioned. So at some point in time, I'm sure that they have progressed until then, because I was working with IBM. So you gave example of IBM Watson. It's pretty interesting to see that how IBM Watson sentiment analysis, tone analysis, and all those things have been so successful in other domains, for example, retail and AI. But when we talk about future, because that was the topic of this panel discussion, I would just like to give a little bit irrelevant example here. It's also very interesting to see that recently, you may have known, and many people on this panel will know about it, that IBM Watson is struggling with their healthcare implementation of many of these analyses. And they're, it's pretty much public that they are planning to probably sell that part of the business as well. So I can quote that here. So it's very interesting that how in more, I would say, traditional industries, because retail and e-commerce is one of the industries where you can do a lot of sentiment analysis or a lot of data analysis on the basis of existing models, or you can create new models more easily as compared to some of the evolving industries. When it comes to healthcare, it's I was involved in certain projects through my startup mentorship initiatives. And I was very curious, and it's very, how would I say, insightful as well, that in healthcare, it is very challenging to implement even the existing capabilities of AI, like sentiment analysis or even using neural networks somewhere. It's not easy. On paper, it's very easy, but when you dive into it, you just see or face hurdles which you probably would not see in, for example, retail and e-commerce. And also because the stakes are higher. Because, for example, if you're using AI, and Watson at certain point in time, they were working with, healthcare providers, major healthcare providers in US. They claim that they can replace to a certain extent the diagnosis part of the doctors. And that is not easy, because sometimes the AI comes up with diagnosis, which is not right, because they are building on those data models, which are already there, but then many diseases have similar symptoms. So it's pretty interesting that how similar capabilities of AI are working differently or producing different results across different sectors. And fortunately, retail and e-commerce sector is one where we can experiment more because relatively the stakes are lower as compared to some other industries. And then we can see that how it evolves, and then we can probably implement in other industries as well. I just wanted to share that thought on this.
Yeah, of course. And why I think healthcare is a little difficult in terms of AI, because right now I am involved in building a ML-based healthcare product because of like couple of things. First of all, as you said, the stakes are high, and why they're high, because you cannot afford to have an error there, like a type 2 error, which we call them, because it is healthcare is very personal to any user. Like retail may not be personal. If you buy a product which does not turn out to be good, that's fine, you can buy another one. But if the healthcare does not turn out to be good, it just completely jeopardizes your like living conditions, and then your lifeline, or like the kind of number of years you will live, or something of that sort. So that's why, as you said, the stakes are high, and that's why people are very reluctant to do experiments in healthcare. So you would see a lot of these advancements and high-tech use cases of AI in other domain, but in healthcare, not a lot of high-tech advancements. I mean, you will see a lot of papers releasing in AI in healthcare, but you will not see a lot of commercial products which are coming out for healthcare, because you had to be like,
Agreed,
and then
Deepak.
again
That's
there is
what I was
FDA.
pointing out to. I agree with you completely, and of course, you know about it better. I would like to take this conversation further offline because I'm really interested in this domain. But I agree with you 100% that healthcare is so personalized and stakes are so high that I see a lot of papers and research and claims around. And recently, if we talk about like some of the IPOs in US, and all of you must be knowing about it, like Babylon. They claimed quite a few things, but then it's hard to prove that if those capabilities are there or not. But I would just like, I wanted to focus on the IBM Watson and their applications in AI, in retail and e-commerce, and I've seen that those are pretty successful first-handedly. But when it comes to other industries, it's challenging to use the same capabilities which they have already built on the base of NLP, on the base of neural networks, or in the using data science. But it varies across industries. And of course, Anana would know better about it because she's currently working with CVS, and of course, healthcare and CVS has a close collaboration.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. I think totally agree. And in the spirit of taking the conversation to where this could go, right, in terms of the future, I think the success lies in, so the stakes are high, the error tolerance is low, but thinking about applications not like the original way they were thinking about AI and data science, where it could impact healthcare, was, as you guys mentioned, where we could automate a diagnosis, or we could do those kind of cutting edge health assessments or advice, which is where I feel it gets into trouble, because that is very hard to do. And trying to use AI there might not be the smartest thing to do, right? But within healthcare industry itself, there are many other areas where, again, the same technology can be borrowed. So, for example, I'll take a classic use case where IBM Watson kind of technology is leveraged, and we are looking into it in CVS and other actually big healthcare companies, where there are elements of it where a person comes in, you have to ask them many questions to determine their identity before a prescription gets filled out, or those kind of administrative processes. There, actually, these kind of technologies can work wonders, because that is a huge cost center for these companies.
Of course.
And those areas have a little bit lesser, more error tolerance than, say, a health diagnosis. And it's also, from a consumer perspective, easily amenable, right? Meaning, me as a health consumer, I would be reluctant to have an automated AI engine telling me what medicine I should take. But I'll be totally fine if you can take away the job of me having to fill 100 forms, right? I'll be like, yes, please.
Wow.
use my, let me speak into a phone, and then you just record it, and then you take all that information and auto-populate it, and I just have to review it. Boom. It's actually making my life easier. It's making my doctor's life easier and the administrator's life easier. So I think the beauty of it is, as leaders in healthcare industry or these kind of tough industries, and this I say many, many times, right? It's not like AI works or doesn't work. It is about what is the right business problem against which you want to apply AI. That's usually always the secret sauce. It's not like you always need a new, there's a lot of research already done, and people are pushing, academia is pushing the frontier in terms of machine learning algorithms. There's no dearth for advanced technologies. And again and again, not just healthcare, in many other, even like grocery shopping, there are challenges. The reason why people or like companies struggle to prove value out of AI and data science, in my opinion, is because it's always a wrong match between the business problem and the technology. If folks can like really crack that code, and that's where that creativity aspect, that's where even us, right, like as AI leaders in these industries, our job, I see, is less about coming up with the latest technology, rather matchmaking. What is the right nugget of the business problem that you can take and apply the right kind of technique? And if that clicks, I feel there is a lot of business value around it. So to your point, like completely agree that it's very hard, but it's all about where can we plug it in such that things go along, right?
And as you said,
I think one more point to add, right? Right now, if you look at any industry or any company within that industry segment, whether it's a retail, CPG, or healthcare, AI has been used in an experiment state, right? Means companies are leveraging AI, doing experiment in different portfolios, but it's more on the silos, right? AI is not yet at the scale level, right? Means we are not scaling at an enterprise level in any of the company. Forget about Amazon. Means that is like an outlier, right? So in this case, but other than that, it's from experiment to scale at enterprise level. I think it's a journey which takes some time for any company, because every company's maturity is different with respect to people, with respect to culture, with respect to processes, with respect to emerging tech platforms, right? So your digital transformation journey, when I say, it combines all three parameters: people, process, and transform platforms. And companies are, not mature on. A lot of companies are not mature on all three of these. Moreover, they are mature maybe on platform side, leveraging the technology piece, but they are not. They are not mature on the people, culture, and processes side, right? And there where they don't get the right outcomes, right business values out of these initiatives. So building a right product for the right business problem is also a key, so that business value would be delivered to the end consumers.
I would quickly like to add on that, because I think Rishi made some really good point, and so did Sananda. Like when she mentioned that stakes. So I would just like, for example, if I'm shopping something and I use NLP and I order something, worst case scenario, if AI will not work, I will get a different product. Well, it's not life threatening, but if I am talking about my medication or some diagnosis, it's life threatening. And then if I bring it all together, when Rishi made a point that of scalability, because right now I'm facing that challenge in my day-to-day job, that platforms are there. Probably some of the technology is there, but then people and processes piece is not augmented for the complete digital transformation of it. So the scalability is not there, because so far, and the way I understand it, and in my opinion, AI is applicable and is successful on certain use cases. If we talk the typical AI terminology, if we talk the little bit more layman technology, as Sananda said, that certain or specific problems. So beyond those certain use cases, whether it's healthcare, whether it's retail and e-commerce, where AI is more advanced, as I believe, I think that the scalability part will come in when AI will have more data. Like the bigger the data set or would be, it would be more reliable. But then also data should have that reliability and validity factor, as I said earlier, as well, in order to scale that. But again, we have to create more use cases on day-to-day basis. The data scientists have to implement the data on those specific use cases in order to go towards the scalability part, and bringing it all together and back to the retail and e-commerce industry, because that's what we are focusing on. I would like to give one more example, which I think is already in practice, but as we go 2 to 3 years down the lane, that will play definitely an important role, and that has been expedited by this ongoing pandemic, and that is use of augmented reality or AR technology. And of course, Deepak has covered some of the back-end technology which is used for the augmented reality or virtual reality. I wouldn't call it completely virtual, but I would call augmented reality solutions. But I would like to give an example right now, which is in practice in industry. So for example, during the pandemic specifically, if you're trying to buy a furniture item from one of the stores with the e-commerce presence, some of those stores have given you the option that they have an app actually, that you can go and will provide you a rooms in certain advanced apps, which I haven't seen much so far. You can actually upload something which is similar to your room, and then you can test or try different products of that specific retailer or e-commerce provider in that specific room. So you can check different colors, you can check different sizes, you can check different shapes of, for example, a couch or a chair. And that is to me, it was a very advanced application of AI in retail and e-commerce, because even without leaving your living room, you can go on an e-commerce site, you can see a scenario where that furniture or their couch, to be very specific, is placed. I'm just giving a specific example. It could be a chair, couch, desk, or anything. So that would be placed. You can try different colors, you can try different sizes, you can try different shapes, and sitting in your living room, you will be able to finalize that furniture piece. You will place an order through that e-commerce platform online, and that would be delivered to you. So that is the use of augmented reality, where partially you are merging the reality with reality. In this part is that couch or is that furniture piece, which is actually available with that e-commerce store. And the augmented part is that room scenario, or the room scenario which they have allowed to upload you allowed you to upload. And then we are combining or bringing both of them together and enhancing the customer experience, and also enhancing the our sales, because the final part is that they are impacting our bottom line. With that, I'll pass it back to Deepak.
Yeah, Deepak, you are mute. We have 5 minutes to wrap it up. Yeah.
Yep, sure. And these were really great points and additions to whatever we were talking. So I'll quickly finish. I think it's like maybe one or two more slides. Let's go to the next one. So another section, another area, we have the categorization, where clustering is used as technology, and where we find it in customer segmentation, right? And that is the first use case, the customer segmentation based on purchase behavior, as one of our speakers have previously talked about. Previously, it was like everyone, and then many, and then single customer as a segment. Next is grouping the retail stores in a mall or in a particular area, right? So that when you visit to the shopping mall, for one person, you can find similar stores nearby. And how that is grouped again based on the purchase behavior of one particular kind of category of customers. So I have provided the links here in case you wanted to go and refer that these are the companies who help in doing the customer segmentation and then grouping the retail stores using the clustering technology. If you can go to the next one. And then finally, the most basic use cases and the most prevalent use case of machine learning is using the regression, the advanced regression and feature engineering, which we have seen in, for example, UPS uses in route optimization of their vehicles. So they have a platform called Orion, which suggests which is the best route to take to kind of deliver the parcels in more fuel efficient manner and time efficient manner. And now they are deploying AI over that existing Orion platform to even enhance its capabilities. Again, demand and supply can be more accurate, and it can be forecasted pretty well. And then these are the companies which you have just hyperlinked here really help in. And these are not any advertisements of these companies, because I also know about them after like couple of hours of research. It is just to give you an idea that a lot of different companies are just built on one particular sub cases of AI, and you can see how different companies are kind of weightlifting different pillars of AI to bring it all together and deploy its functionality so that it helps our users and customers. So I think that's it.
I will add one more point because if you're talking about future of AI, these two emerging use cases are important. One is autonomous autonomous delivery of the products, right? So you see like Walmart, Amazon, all are testing their drone delivery platforms, and they have to build a visibility platform at the back end to make sure the route and tracking for these drones. That is one which is really important, right? I think that would be an addition, and then conversational commerce piece. I think that is also one where we use audio, like voice-enabled platforms where you just talk like human with the machine, right? And you do everything that you can do uh, as a human. You can just you work with the platform and order your products. Your products would be shipped. Any kind of a query, customer service, everything is part of it. So these two are, I think, addition to what Deepak mentioned. Thank you, Deepak.
Yes,
if I bring it all together, because we are towards end of our time, I would just like to highlight, like, it was such a and I'm sure that our audience have enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. And of course, it's a continuous learning. But I strongly believe that in AI and retail sector, as well as in e-commerce and retail sector, as well as in all other sectors, I strongly believe that we would be able to get the best results out of this technology if we focus more on best capabilities from both sides and utilize them together for advancing this technology. Because if we will focus on one side that, okay, we can only implement AI to get this type of functionality, or we will eliminate the human side completely, or vice versa, that okay, this can only be done by human beings because so far we have been doing it like that, I think we won't be able to achieve the scale of success which we can achieve through augmentation. That's my humble opinion if I want to bring all of what we have discussed together. And thank you again, Nitin, for having me here, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
This was really good.
Thank you, Sumaya. Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Rishi, and thank you, Sananda. I think we had a lovely conversation, and the topic was obviously the future of AI in retail and e-commerce, and bringing other sectors also in this particular panel discussion. It was exciting, actually, and I like the way the discussion moved forward. Hope the audience also have enjoyed your conversation. Thank you.
A pleasure.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you. Hope to stay in touch with all of you. Thank you, Sumaya. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Deepak. So, guys, we'll quickly move on to our next presenter. Before moving on to Eric and Corinne, I want to give an insight to all of you. Who are they and what they are in? Their topic is into. So, Eric Tyree is head of AI and Blue Prism, and Meriwether is Corinne Meriwether is director retail and transport in Blue Prism. So their topic is obviously intelligent automation, how the merger of AI and RPA is transforming retail operations. I'll give you some insight about who Eric and Corinne is before they take the stage. Eric is the head of AI, and he's expert in commercial application of AI and advanced analytics with over 20 years of experience. He has led development of a wide range of data-driven products and services in a lot of other areas: consumer analytics, travel, retail, banking, HR, portfolio, pensions, insurance, lots of things. I think he will do the talking in a more detailed way. And Corinne is director of retail, having spent more than a decade working with some of world's most influential retail and transportation brands. He now leads Blue Prism retail industry efforts. So over to you, both of you, and hope this will have a lovely conversation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, let me just get the slides up and running in place. Ooh, it's not working. Hang on. There we go. Right. So I think what we thought we would do is I'm going to have Corinne kick off with just a sort of a quick discussion about where are we seeing the current challenges within retail operations. Blue Prism is a software automation company, robotic process automation. And I guess if I were to describe what we do in a nutshell is we build software robots to automate processes. And if I was to summarize my job in one sentence, is I put the brains in the robots. So so really what we're all about is providing software-driven robotics, or literally software robotics that run in your back office on top of your systems. They interact with your people. They can assist in customer interactions. And so what I'll do is I'll not only sort of walk you through how this works and what do we mean by the term intelligent automation, but I'll also give you some use cases as well. It may be a taste of as a senior manager, how you need to think about this. How can you get intelligent automation to work within your organization? Because it's not just a technology application. It's really an operational a way of thinking and a way of operating. So I'll talk a bit about that. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Corinne, who is going to talk to you about where we see the challenges today in the retail space.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. As Eric and Nitin said, my name's Corinne, and I have indeed spent more than a decade working with some of the largest, most influential retailers to help very much focused, helping them on improving customer experience and that operational efficiency. And I could talk to you about, how the pandemic has affected the global retail industry, but I think all of the numerous speakers who's come before me have done as good, if not better, a job as I possibly could have done myself. But what I want to kind of really focus on is those brands who really put customers at the heart of what their business did during the pandemic, and those who innovated at all costs in order to better serve these customers during the times of immense stress. Ironically, even though we could have anticipated it, these brands are already seeing far-reaching consequences, with research suggesting that up to 30% of consumers have actually become more loyal to those brands who consistently served them well during lockdown. And for these retailers who now have their eyes, very much fixed on becoming the leaders in their spaces, they have a very disciplined approach to continual cost optimization as a major back-to-work strategy, which I'm sure will allow them to really strike the balance between cost efficiencies and innovation in order to create further competitive advantage in the months and years to come. Next slide, please. So again, everybody before me has said it really well, but fueled by hype and perhaps curiosity, AI has seen an explosive interest across the sector and is now set to become one of the single most important technologies that retailers need to win in the next era of potentially never normal again. AI will not just enable advanced automation use cases across the value chain for retailers, but it will also play a far larger role in acting as a nervous system for the organization and automatically supporting continuous adaptation and improvements. Because for tomorrow's customer, real time will simply not be fast enough. Next slide, please. Let's just think about what I just said there for a minute. For tomorrow's customer, reacting in real time will not be fast enough. But what does better than real time actually look like? To give you an example, let me ask you this. When was the last time you had to think about taking a breath or lifting your arm to reach for something, or closing your eye when something flies past you unexpectedly. James Joyce was once quoted saying that if we had to think about everything our bodies are required to do day to day just to sustain life, then we would all be dead. And while it is often assumed that consciousness is the dominant feature of the brain, in reality, most of the body's day-to-day processing is actually accomplished outside of continuous notice or control. So in a similar way, retailers who embrace AI and intelligent automation as a central nervous system will be able to continuously read thousands of signals, reacting to events and proactively anticipating what will and or what will need to happen next. It can then automatically reconfigure and redeploy resources to maximize each and every opportunity. And for those people in the audience who are still not sure that AI is going to be one of the next big things in this space, I want to point out that children born after 2010 have already been using AI in their everyday lives. Smartphones, voice assistants, smart cars, navigation, social media, music streaming, video games. These children are not going to shop the way that we do today, but their influence on how we shop tomorrow will be enormous. In the very near future, they will require you to leverage expert knowledge and customer behavior to personalize offers and provide highly flexible assortments, or to even anticipate their shipping and shopping needs. None of which could be achieved without the help of robust automations leveraging artificial intelligence. With that, I'd like to hand back over to Eric Tyree, who'll tell you more about how we're helping our customers with this today.
Great. Thanks, Corinne. What I'll do is maybe start off just talking a little bit more about what RPA is. I think you've had a lot of discussion on what AI is, so I won't go down on that again. But a really interesting comment that Corinne was making about children born after 2010. The real test of AI is that good AI is you don't notice it. You're using it, you don't even know it's there. And I think that's certainly the case today. It's not an emerging technology. It's just accelerating, but it's already there. And you can say a similar thing about RPA. So in its RPA is about 15-year-old technology. I mean, it's well past its early adopter phase. It's in common use in financial services and manufacturing, and increasingly now in retail. And essentially what it is originally it was being able to take a manual process, so form filling, moving data between systems to create, say, open an account or to process a customer order. Very, very manual work. Originally it was developed to automate that. So for example, if you could just, show a robot move, this data from this system, put it in this part of the form, take the address from that system over there, put it in this part of the form, that's what it was doing. But obviously people started looking at how they could automate more sophisticated processes. People started looking at, well, how can we get these automations, which we now call digital workers? How can we get these digital workers to work with and cooperate with human workers, cooperate with customers? And so people started applying more and more AI. And as Corinne pointed out, a lot of this AI is around things like chatbots, things that you interact with without you realizing you're actually interacting with an AI. So, in effect, what's happened is that robotic process automation, which is what RPA means, has become a platform for AI. So, when I look at automation as a toolkit, I just see the RPA piece as the vector. It's the piece that allows me to do the core automations within an organization. But when I need to do something sophisticated, like I want to, rather than say having to program a robot to do a task, I want to just show it a video of a task and have it learn it itself. I'm using AI to do that. And that's effectively what's happening with the technology today. So in effect, what intelligent automation is getting digital workers or automations the ability to be more human-like. So we're using machine learning so that they can learn, they can adapt, they can make decisions. We're putting natural language processing into digital workers so they can speak, write, and listen. Machine vision, so obviously they can see objects, and they can see videos, they can see photographs, they can see documents and extract data from those documents. And it's also getting a bit interesting in that there's an area of AI called program synthesis, which is actually one of the oldest areas of AI. And now that's suddenly becoming a big thing because we want digital workers to write their own programming. The reason for this is companies they don't want to just buy 2 or 3 digital workers to do a few tasks. They want whole business units running with digital workers. And so they need to go from 10 digital workers to 100 digital workers to 1,000 digital workers. And if you're going to scale your automation workforce like that, you really have to have automations that can write their own programming. So you can show them a process, they code themselves, and get on with automating itself. That sounds futuristic, but it's actually happening now. And we're building this kind of stuff, and we're already looking at automating something like 75% of of the coding you need to do to get a digital worker to begin automating a new process. When we talk about AI or really RPA being a platform for AI, we really are talking about the full spectrum. Everything from sentiment analysis, entity recognition, content classification, image recognition, face recognition. You name it, there's somebody out there who needs it in a process they want to automate, and we're putting it into digital workers. So I think this is a really exciting time to be involved in both automation and AI because the two have come together. And really what automation's doing is it's finding lots and lots of really concrete things to be able to do with AI. So it's evolved. I mean, we don't really talk about robotic process automation anymore. We talk about intelligent automation because it's gone from being AI being the kind of an enabler for RPA to AI almost being the automation itself. But this is where it's going. I mean, this technology, as I said, is 15 years old. And I think in the old days, when people looked at automation, they're automating processes. So, for example, a bank might look at, okay, let's go find some processes that are easy to automate and have got a high ROI if we automate them. And today, that's still how a lot of people think about automation. But because digital workers are becoming more and more AI-enabled, they're becoming much more human capable in terms of the tasks and processes they can do and the interactions they can have. People are now starting to talk about integrated workforces. So, in fact, today we talk about the unified workforce, where about roughly a third of the work is done by people, a third of the work is done by digital workers, and a third is being done by underlying systems, just straight-through processing and traditional digitization methods. This is, we used to talk about this being the workforce for the future, but this is now what people are building. And when people think about automation strategically, so for example, they want to automate the back office of an online retailer. This is the kind of workforces they're designing for now. Where they're really designing from an automation first point of view, and then looking at I'm going to automate everything, and I'm going to bring in humans where there's bits that either require human touch, like speaking to people, or just cannot be automated because of certain complexities or regulatory requirements. So in many ways, what we're talking about now is a new sort of business operating system, where you when you organize and think about operations, you think about it from a point of view of what am I automating, and then you're bringing people in to fill in the gaps between the automations. And I think that's the big shift, because it used to be you use automations to put the gaps in between people, and that's now turned around completely. And that's simply because not only has AI reached the point where this is attainable, it's really the cost as well. I mean, one of the salient characteristics of robotic process automation is that it runs on top of your systems. So it doesn't replace systems. You actually just use it to automate on top of your existing infrastructure. And this is a really important point, because when I start talking about some of the use cases coming up and the strategic nature of them, what many people are starting to realize is that automation isn't just about process efficiencies or FTE savings. It's increasingly seen as a strategic enabler, as an enabler for growth, an enabler for customer service, also as a capital allocation strategy, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So when we talk about this unified workforce, this workforce of humans, of digital workers, and of underlying systems, this is a single workforce. We're not talking about businesses having, a human workforce and then having a digital workforce over there and having a digitized, infrastructure in another corner. What people are building are single workforces that combines humans with these technologies together in a single sort of holistic operation. This is something that's very AI enabled, and it's designed from an automation first point of view. And this is the real revolution here, is rather than thinking about automation from a tactical point of view, it's increasingly being seen as a primary driver in organizational design. And if you're building from scratch or you're transforming your organization, people are designing from an automation first point of view. Now, in order to do this, you need pretty powerful digital workers, so pretty powerful automations. And the diagram on the right-hand side here is pretty much the state of play now. Digital workers can learn, they can use visual perception, computer vision to see what's on screens, they can solve problems, they can collaborate amongst themselves and with human workers. They're capable of retaining knowledge, and they're capable of deriving insights, and they're capable of planning and sequencing. They're not as powerful as humans, but they can pick up a lot of the work that humans were doing before already. Now, before going into some of these use cases, it's probably worth touching on what's the value of a digital workforce at scale. In other words, when you start thinking about automation at the enterprise scale, designing from an automation first point of view, why would you do that? I mean, what is it really giving you other than potentially cost savings? And the point I'm trying to make here is that large scale automation isn't really a cost argument. It's a strategic enablement argument now. So, for example, a lot of our clients are automating because they want agility. There's the comment Corey made earlier about there is no normal anymore, and we're not going to build for normal anymore. That is what automation gives you. It gives you the capability to have a much more rapid speed of change at a reduced cost of change. Another way that people put this is operations over IT. So if you have an automation first designed operation, you don't necessarily need to change your underlying IT systems to change your operations. So in the old days, if you want to change your operations, you want to be more efficient, you want to change because of a change in the market or a change in competition or a new product you want to release, you used to have to pick up the phone, you'd ring the IT department, and the IT department would say, sure, we can do that for you. It's going to cost $10 million, and it'll probably take 3 or 4 years for us to do it. But yeah, no problem. What automation allows you to do through digital workers is that because they run on top of your existing IT infrastructure, when you want to change your operations, you just redirect the digital workers. Now, these digital workers don't necessarily require a great amount of programming experience to operate or even to reprogram. Most of it's point and click, drop down, low code or no code type interfaces. So as an operations manager, or you want to change your operations, you just change the robots. You literally just redirect them to the new process. That costs weeks, months, and maybe costs, 5 figures, maybe 6 figures at most. So you've suddenly taken something that would take, tens of millions in years and turned it into something that's probably within your operational budget and is really just a minor inconvenience while you do it, as opposed to something that disrupts things for several years. It's also a new way of thinking about organizational efficiencies. There's some really, really good research out there about work prevention and the causes of work. And depending on your sector and depending on where you are within an organization, something on the order of 15 to 35% of the work you do is down to errors, mistakes, oversights, or bad processes. In other words, this is all entirely preventable work. Large-scale automation takes out the lion's share of that. So people are starting to design automation strategies that are looking at, well, where are the inefficiencies in the work I'm creating? Where's the work that's being created because people are making mistakes? And those are the pieces we should be prioritizing with automation and focusing people's time on the tasks and interactions that actually require human contact. There's also a compounding return that you can get from automation, is that an effective automation programs, are they going to generate revenue or it's going to save you money? And if you take some of that revenue or take some of those savings and reinvest it back into your automation programs, you get a compounding return. So when you think about the business cases for automation, you don't always cast them as single projects. And I'm going to show you a use case that leverage this. What you do is you think about, well, it's it's a way of working, it's a way of operating, and what you do is you model in the return or the reinvestment of some of the proceeds from that automation program back into the program itself, and you get an exponential growth in terms of the payback you're getting for the automation program. And then finally, my background is in big data transformations for corporates, and every time I was doing one of these jobs, all I was really doing is I was helping an organization observe things better. In other words, get better data, get better insight on that data, and then take action on that data. And in effect, what I was doing is not only helping them do each of those stages better, but trying to get that cycle better. So in other words, going from data to insight to action, and then rinse and repeat faster and faster and faster to get more and more benefit for the organization. One of the things we've noticed with large-scale automation is you kind of get that as a byproduct. And the reason for this is that automated processes generally produce better quality data and more of it. And so what a lot of organizations are doing is they're taking the data produced from their automation programs and either feeding that data to create more automations with, or they're pulling the data out and they're giving it to other parts of the organization to use for other things. And so increasingly what we're saying to people is a digitized workforce or something that approaches that unified workforce of a third human, third digital worker, and a third underlying system is really a data-driven workforce. And that's part of what you really should be striving with automation is you're trying to turn your operations into something that's very, very data-driven and very, very deliberate in terms of how you're allocating work across different workers, depending on whether or not, what they're best at, whether they're silicon-based or carbon-based. So what I'll do is just go to some use cases, because I'm talking very abstractly about RPA and about AI and about some of the benefits it can give you. And I think the best way to really kind of help you understand this is just to give you some use cases. So I thought I would go for breadth rather than depth. So I'm not going to go into these too deeply. I'm going to skim over about 4 or 5 use cases so you can kind of get an idea of what people are doing with automation. And I'm going to show you a couple cases from the retail space, but I'm going to show you a couple that aren't from retail but are directly relevant because it's showing some of the things you can do regardless of what kind of industry you're in. So the first one is with Waitrose and Partners. So for those of you who aren't UK-based, Waitrose is a groundbreaking upmarket supermarket. And but that said, it's a competitive market. And, for those of you who are in the grocery business, I mean, it is really thin margins and it's very, very tough competition. So there, any successful grocery business really, really has to be continuously innovative and constantly think about how to improve their operations. And Waitrose, very quickly found themselves in a position where they had too few people and to get their work done that they wanted to get done. And if you're running on 2 to 3% margins, you don't have a lot of money to hire lots of people. And this is a really interesting thing about automation today is that at least in service industries and knowledge industries, people aren't automating to remove people. Organizations are automating because they don't have enough people, and they're using automation to grow their businesses without having to grow their headcount. And Waitrose is a great example of this because they had some severe issues around supply chain management and around managing promotions that was just becoming very, very costly. And they reckoned that if they could take the people away from those operations and put them onto more to other operations that require more human capabilities, not only would it produce a better working environment for their workers, but it would also mean that they have a much more efficient organization. So the first thing they did is they looked at their weekly promotions. So Waitrose is a pretty large supermarket chain. They run thousands of promotions every week, and they run these promotions on a rolling 4-week basis. So you can imagine that on any given month, there's 4 sets of promotions of thousands of promotions each being managed by the organization. And this is critical because this is how supermarkets compete. And even if you're an upscale supermarket, customers are still price sensitive, and you've got competitors who may not be quite as, say, posh as you are, but they're selling the same goods for a bit less money. So they have to be on their toes. And on top of this, not only were these promotional cycles pretty intense and large, is they vary a lot. Some of them are seasonal, some of them are on demand. So, a buyer has suddenly acquired something at a lower price and it wants to promote that as a promotion with the organization. And some are regular. These are just regular promotions that the supermarket runs. So effectively what they did is they replaced over 400 people with digital workers into this process, and then redirected those humans that were no longer sort of handling the promotion process and put them into strategy and forecasting. So what this meant is that there was an enormous amount of manual work required to manage thousands of products going in promotion every week. They automated pretty much the entire process end to end so that the humans involved in the promotion process now are not filling in forms. They're not doing rote check of to make sure that the products are actually on the shelves and that or that the suppliers are actually getting the products they're putting on promotion so that customers can buy them. They're now focused entirely on the strategy and the forecasting around the promotions. In other words, the things that make the promotions actually effective, because they're promoting things that people actually want and they actually want to buy and that give them a strategic advantage over their competitors. That's where the people are focused now. But the manual work in the processing of these promotions is now pretty much entirely automated. Similar situation with supplying. The process of ensuring that the suppliers are delivering goods to the quality that they need at the time they need in the places that they need it was an extraordinary amount of work for them. And not only did they get some great statistics in that they've taken 50% out of their ordering costs and ordered or automated on the order of 800 FTE hours per month of supply chain management, they actually managed to take the middleman out. So what they used to do is they would, with their manual processes, is they would source from suppliers. It would go to a central depot or central depots, and then be distributed across the destinations where those goods had to go. Through automation, they realized they could actually take out those depots, and that they could go direct from supplier to the actual ultimate destination of those goods, which took out an enormous amount of complexity and cost within their supply chain management. So again, it's really important to understand about this is that they didn't go about this in a tactical way. They didn't stop to think, hey, here's a couple of processes we could automate and we could make ourselves more competitive. This is part of Waitrose's ongoing campaign to think about automation very strategically, based on the realization that they're going to win if they automate well, because that means they can definitely serve their customers better. It means they can squeeze a bit more out of those tight margins, and they can grow the business without necessarily growing their cost base in the process. So automation here is not just about tactical efficiency. It's actually about being strategic in a market that's both hyper competitive and frustratingly low margin, and having to eke out profits at that level is tough. And so automation plays a very big strategic role. Another really good example I mentioned earlier, ops over IT, where if you automate on top of your IT systems, you can execute change in a very dramatic way with an organization very, very quickly. So this is the Very Grip, which is a large, very large online retailer, and they were having severe issues with basically fraud referrals. So this is either somebody is fraudulently ordering goods, or they're fraudulently claiming that the goods weren't delivered. So a parcel wasn't actually delivered and they have to reship it, or what have you, or somebody has fraudulently used their account. And so they looked at two options. I mean, one option was to put in a dedicated fraud system, a third-party product that would have taken quite a lot of money and quite a lot of time to bed in. Or they thought, what if we just took our existing fraud management processes and automated them so that we took out the time and the effort that people were putting into it and just allowed digital workers to do it. And they found, even though this is a very complex interaction between customer care groups, operational groups, agility teams, anti-fraud teams, so on and so forth, they found that they could use digital workers in conjunction with that complexity. So they did it. They used their digital workers to automate everything from both fraud detection to processing. And in their mind, this wasn't just about saving money. And I think in the end, they saved about $5 million in fraud cost. What they were really worried about was the impact this was having on customers, because if someone's account is used fraudulently, they have to get a rebate back to that customer quickly, or they're going to lose that customer. So the key metric they looked at is that, can we get that rebate back to our customers quickly without giving money to fraudsters in the process? And they were able to do it. And in fact, they were able to securely get credit decisions for fraud victims down from taking weeks to process to just 30 minutes. This made a big difference to them because the customers now trust them. And the customers know that if their account is hacked or the card is, or what have you, that the very group is going to treat them quickly, is going to treat them fairly, and if they have been abused, that they're going to get compensated very, very quickly, as within 30 minutes. So again, this isn't just about saving some money. This is about customer service. This is about being competitive in an online retailing environment. So again, it's strategic, and I think it's why we tell people, when you think about automation, think big, think ambitious. Think about how automation can help your business run better in the face of the challenges you're seeing in the market. I want to talk to you briefly about Telefonica, which is an enormous Spanish telco. And I'm just going to touch on it because this is a great example of using automation in call centers. So Telefonica are growing hand over fist, but they have a very, very high labor costs around their call centers. They're serving about 18 million customers. They have about 6,000 call center agents, and are dealing with hundreds of thousands of customer requests daily, basically. And but have set customer service as a super high priority for the business. The reason being is that you can go with pretty much any mobile phone company, but a mobile phone company that treats you well is probably a phone company you're going to stick with. So, but they had to attack this cost issue at the end of the day, and they wanted to do it in a way that's not going to degrade their customer service. So they looked at using a digital worker-based automation program, and they wound up using over 600 of them. And those 600 digital workers are now touching over 250,000 customer calls a day. This allows for humans to focus on the higher value calls. So you can imagine there's a bit of a triage system in here that's sort of directing calls to, is this a call that's best given to an automated digital worker, or do I as a human need to deal with this? So that's a really important piece of this. But in the process, they've taken out 25% of their call center operating costs and managed to get that return within a year. So this is the other point I'm making about RPA-based automation. It's fast and it's inexpensive. You can imagine a call center operation of this scale able to get a 25% return within a year in an automation program. That just shows you how light this technology is and how quickly organizations can work with it. So this is another great example of ops over IT. Managed to get an 80% reduction in average call handling time because digital workers are handling an increasing proportion of them. What's more is that calls that need to go to humans are going to humans right away. Calls that just need, some processing, they want to change their address. Somebody wants to, has a minor technical issue that needs to be fixed. I mean, that can all be automated and handled by digital workers. But also the really great stat here I love is that they got a 300% increase in calls handled per hour. And now think about that. If you ring Telefonica, you're not sitting there listening to music for 10 minutes to finally get a hold of somebody. You're getting through pretty quick. And that means that you're coming away with a great sense of customer service from that organization. So again, this isn't retail, but I thought I would just show it to you because I think everybody's got call centers or has got some form of customer contact, and I thought it was a really good example to see how the automation of call centers can be done using digital workers as opposed to traditional call center automation technologies. It can be done much faster, much quicker this way. And my final, I think it's my final use case is Hovis, which again, not a retailer. This is baking and flour milling, but this is for all the CTOs out there. Are people worried about, how do I deal with, years and years of legacy and automating on top of that legacy? So it's got relevance, I think, to a lot of older retailers or even like younger ones. I mean, I've done, modern travel booking systems, and 3 years you've got legacy, if not less. So basically, this Hovis has been around a long, long time, and they've grown through acquisition. And then where they wound up, as a usual problem you wind up when you grow through acquisition, is that they had a lot of legacy they acquired, and they were starting to choke on it. Basically, they were becoming very inefficient. The error rates and order processing was going through the roof, but they didn't have the capital or the time to replace their legacy systems. So they went the ops over IT approach. Instead of replacing their legacy systems, they just automated the processes that run on top of them to solve the problem. In a nutshell, they got their error rate reduced to 0. They're now capable of processing orders 24/7, which they couldn't actually do before, which is amazing. But the really important point I want to make to you here is they did not replace a single system. So all they did was automate on top of their existing legacy. So from a capital allocation perspective, this is amazing. This means that they're not spending a ton of capex on their IT systems. They can spend it elsewhere in their organization. They can spend it on their factories. They can spend it on distribution or whatever it is they want to spend it on. And that was really a lesson I wanted you to see here, is that if you are hobbled by legacy, there are solutions now from an automation point of view that can be a real lifesaver. So very briefly, just to wrap up, because I want to leave some time for questions, is so if you're a senior manager, how should you think about automation? And really what you need to be doing is designing our operations from an automation first point of view. Absolutely critical, they should be aligned with strategy. Automation isn't tactical anymore. It's strategic. You use automation to help you grow. You use automation to improve customer service. You use automation to deal with competitive pressures. Don't just use it for cost efficiencies. You're underutilizing the technology if you do that. And if you go down that strategic route, focus on the end state. What does your business look like, or what do your operations look like if they were redesigned from an automation first perspective? How do things function? How does the customer interact with you? How does the company look in the customer's eye? And that's where you focus your automation program on, is that particular end state. And really just in support of that, this is about thinking about automation first from an operations point of view. It's thinking about utilizing your human capital more effectively. Again, most automation in the service industries is not about replacing people. It's compensating for the fact you just don't have enough. And so a big part of what people's automation strategies are doing is looking at not just how they can use automation better. How do I use my people better? How do I use them on edge cases, customer-facing, complexity, growth, design, so on and so forth. So it's as much a human capital endeavor as it is an automation one. And also, do you think about automation as a digitization tool? So if you are going through a digitization process, I think it's very, very healthy to think of automation as being part of that umbrella, or as being part of that digitization tool set. The great advantage automation gives you is that if you have areas of the business where you don't want to invest the CapEx, but you want to leverage automation, you can do it. So for example, if you need to improve better customer experience, but you also need to work, you've got a lot of legacy, I would recommend you spend your money on your capital on the customer experience piece, then automate on top of legacy, and then replace it at your leisure in the future. Again, automation strategies really are capital allocation strategies as well. And then finally, think about data-driven operations and how automation can be that driver for you. So that's the sort of 50,000-foot tour of how people are using automation. In particular, what do we mean by intelligent automation? How people are using it right now within the retail world, but also a couple examples in there of from outside the retail sector, but applications of automation that I think are really directly relevant and important to the retail universe. So with that, I think we've got a few minutes left. If there's any questions, anything anyone would like us to speak a bit more about, I'm more than happy.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Corey. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Combining AI and RPA and using the different case studies which you presented, Eric, it was exciting. Guys, anybody, if you have any questions, please write in the chat box, Q&A, under the Q&A section. Eric will be happy to help you out in answering. Anybody of you have any question, we'll give just a couple of minutes. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, you can just type in. You can come on the stage as well. Anything works better. Don't shy.
Okay, well, I mean, if anybody has any questions, over the weekend and you think of something, feel free to reach out to me or Eric directly, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. We do have an upcoming retail roundtable event on the 14th of July, specifically talking about AI within the retail space and the use cases that, we didn't get a chance to talk about today. So if you would like to learn more about this, again, feel free to reach out and we'll get you registered for that event.
Yeah. And the great thing about the roundtables is, you get to speak to people who've done it. So if you're new to the journey or you want to compare notes with other people who are on the journey, it's a great place to do that in a very kind of intimate environment.
Okay. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
You too. Have a lovely weekend. Deepak has a question. Deepak is on stage. Yeah, Deepak. You are on mute, Deepak, I think. We are not able to listen to you. We can wait, Eric. I think the audio is... Deepak, you are on mute.
I think he's trying frantically to come.
Yeah, he's trying. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I know. It happens. You can just try to log off and log in again, Deepak. No, you're not audible, Deepak. Yeah. Sure. We'll wait for you. Let Deepak join in. Anybody has any questions? Let Deepak join in. Yeah, Rishi.
No, I don't have any question. It is a good question.
Sure.
I just probably, Eric, I'll touch you offline, okay?
Okay, great. Yeah, please do.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah, Deepak, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. So I was just waiting for others if anyone had any question. I had this one question which a couple of years back when I was working in my internship on Blue Prism and I was making my final presentations to the organization. One of the audience asked me, do you not think this particular automation will replace humans again?
Yeah.
Because till this time we were talking that, okay, no, AI will not replace humans. It will just augment the human capabilities. But the Blue Prism or any other RPA technologies, this is kind of replacing the workforce. But what the answer which I had that time and just came to my mind that particular time, that I mean, these were the lines which were being said during Industrial Revolution as well, like the machines will come and they will replace the humans. But what happened? They actually increased more and more kind of opportunities. Again, during Computer Revolution, they said that it will replace people. It is actually the best, I would say, the most kind of job creator in the market right now. So, so what?
Yeah, and they said the internet was going to destroy the real estate industry because you wouldn't need estate agents. And there's probably more. The irony, it did the opposite. It made real estate so visible, it's actually caused the real estate industry to explode. And there's now more estate agents than ever before, sadly, or good, depending if you're an estate agent. But yeah, it's very hard to predict the future and the impact of these things, to be perfectly honest. We do track it. I mean, I was worried about it when I first joined. I'm thinking, do I really want to do this? And so I did some research on it. And if you look across, well, we've done some work looking across our customer base about how's it impacted employment, and it hasn't. Generally speaking, it's like I said before. If you look at banks and you look at back office functions in retailers. It's actually just enabling them to get more work done. It's because I think what it is that I think if you're a manufacturer, you can replace people with machines pretty readily. In service industries, the people are expensive, and often it's their knowledge and skill of the organization, the customers, and the market you want to kind of keep. And so what you're doing is you're actually not getting all the work done you want to get done because you just can't afford more people. So people are bringing in automation and just moving people around. And I didn't show this case. I was going to put it in. There's a bank in the UK called Co-op, and they do this explicitly. And that is their automation strategy. Is they literally look for non-revenue generating work that people do, automate it, and move people to revenue generating work. And it's actually a very simple and effective strategy. And the way they do it is, look, I don't care if it's easy to automate. If I can automate it, I'll do it. Because as a bank, I'm spending so much time on compliance, risk management, approvals. It's killing me because I don't have enough. I can't afford to put more people on customer facing roles. And that was the sort of, original thesis of that strategy. So yeah, we're not seeing it. But you're right. In the long run, even if it is replacing roles, it's part of technology evolution. It's going to happen. People will move around, and there's already people. There's a lot of services out there that you can tap into that look at skills transfers within organizations. So the automation's, it is affecting certain roles, but it's also creating new roles. For example, you need a legion of programmers now who are not necessarily people with computer science backgrounds, but they're probably the people, kind of somebody who can use a macro, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, they're in huge demand. So, and it's not a hard skill to teach somebody. So, so some of these jobs that are going, they're not really going; they're just being moved into different spaces. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're an organization and you are doing this at scale, you do need to think about that. And advice we give to people is, if you are doing automation at scale, get your HR department in at the very beginning. Because it is a human capital issue, and you really do want to think about what it's doing to your workforce. And that, where it is dislocating people, you want to try to reallocate them if you can, and people do. So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and maybe what one solution could be like utilizing that workforce which are not skilled enough yet, and upskilling that workforce which is not that costly. So it is like both win-win situation for both the organization and the workforce who has been not be able to secure any job due to kind of economical landscape of the country or the geography. So
yeah, no, absolutely, totally agree.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Corinne.
Thanks for having us.
Presentation, and see you next time as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Okay, guys. Before moving on to the last presentation for the day, which is going to be dealt by Jeff, who is sipping a great coffee to start with. I just want to have a few special mentions to our partners, basically technology partner Digit7, who has helped us in understanding our vision, supporting us to create such a platform, and our community partners, including all the speakers who has been absolutely supportive, and they have given us an opportunity to interact with the audience and present their knowledge as well. So hats off to all of you. Hats off to the audience who have attended the event. It's a lovely experience, and hope all of you will take a lot of things together. So now we'll have Zeph. Zeph is the last speaker for the day, and I'll let you know his topic so that easy for all of you to understand what he's going into and what his details are. So his topic is using data efficiency in AI for retail, and Zeph is a technical marketing manager in Clarif AI, and he will be taking his topic to the next level. Okay, Zeph, take.
All right. Hey, thanks so much for the introduction.
Over to you. Thank you.
And can you hear me? Is everything working? Does this look right?
I can hear.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, if you have access to unlimited quantities of labeled data, if you have access to unlimited GPU, and if you have unlimited time to train AI models, then this talk is not for you. However, if you want to get the most out of your data with the least amount of effort, this talk is definitely for you, and that's what we'll be talking about today. My name is Jeff Toffley, and I manage technical marketing at Clarify. And we're going to be talking about a theme that our applied researchers work a lot on today, which is data efficiency. And we're going to be talking a bit about cost to accuracy with AI models, zero-shot learning, one-shot learning, few-shot learning, and free data that you can collect by actively learning from your AI models. And if you do have to leave early, I'm going to say that the moral of the story, the last two words of the presentation, are simply deploy first. I did want to say a little bit about Clarify before we get started. We have been at this for a while. We were established initially in 2013 when our founder, Matt Zeeler, won the ImageNet competition based on his research in computer vision. And computer vision certainly continues to be a core competency of what we do. We're proud to be identified by Forrester in the new wave as a leader in computer vision alongside some of the largest technology companies in the world. And we have many noteworthy supporters, and we have at this point a lot of practical experience in applied AI research and in delivering these kind of solutions at scale for our enterprise partners. All right. Now, there are some common steps that you would take when you are building an AI solution to a problem. First, you would need to clearly define the problem. And a surprising number of times, this step is actually sort of skipped over, and the people would jump right into the solution that they have in mind. You'd need to clearly define the metrics that are going to make this solution meaningful. And then you're going to need to define sufficient accuracy. And a little hint here is that 100% accuracy is not the correct answer to this particular issue. 100% accuracy is, of course, something that people are not even capable of. And the necessary accuracy that you require for your particular business use case plays a lot into what you're actually going to need out of your solution. Now, the typical process for building these models is to collect data and collect more data and collect even more data, and then begin a laborious process of labeling this huge pile of data. From there, you're going to need to train your model across various architectures. There are a ton of decisions to make along these lines, training schedules and locks functions to be assessed. From there, you would measure results and deploy your models. And then from there, you're going to have learnings from the field and then have to go back to square one and take another look at your work if you're going to improve it. What we're going to recommend today is that we take a quick look at the nature of AI learning and break down this problem into logical steps based on the amount of data that you have to work with and the type of resources that you have to work with. Here we're looking at a chart where we look at an increasing amount of data and computation applied to a problem. And we've got test accuracy and training error normalized on a scale of 0 to 1. And this pattern is a very common pattern to be seen in machine learning. So we see typically these models learn quickly in the beginning and then would struggle to add additional accuracy as additional data is added. And the question you would need to ask yourself is, what is the actual accuracy required for your model? Is it even achievable? Does it need to be 100%, for example? And then how quickly can you get your model to provide useful levels of accuracy to solve your problem? First out of the gate, we're going to talk about this concept called zero-shot learning. Now, this is something you can research in the academic literature, and there are many technical specifics around zero-shot learning that would get into ways that you can, essentially the idea here is that you're able to get a model of your data based on describing the data set in various ways, setting the various parameters ahead of time. But roughly speaking, in our case, what we want to be describing is a case where you need a useful model with no training examples. So this would be our zero-shot learning approach. And Clarify's solution to this problem is a huge library of pre-built models that have been designed to provide useful solutions to the most common use cases that we see. And a lot of these relate to computer vision, text, and a lot of them have to do with the cross-section between the two. If you have text and an image, you're going to want to be able to understand what that text says. And you may be able to use one of these models that we already have. And in fact, if it's a good match to your problem, this is a great place to start, and this is where we would recommend that you begin. You can deploy one of these pre-built models with just a few lines of code. Here we've got an example of the curl that your developer would need to grab this API endpoint and incorporate one of the models within your technology stack. And we offer dedicated clients in a variety of languages, and we make it dead simple to incorporate this kind of functionality into whatever application that you're working with. Specifically, as related to retail, we might call attention to something like our apparel detection model, which is already built and ready to recognize clothing items in images, for example. And it may be that this solves your problem. But there are also going to be cases where you have a problem that doesn't have an exact solution that's represented in one of our pre-built models. And in this case, you can use Clarify's general model. It's already been trained to recognize over 10,000 classes. In reality, it would return 9,000 classes in the production version of the model. But this can give you useful categories, give you intelligence, give you knowledge about your data that you can then filter and sort and use in whatever way that you may need for your particular business use case. Next up, we might think about a situation that we would call one-shot learning. And again, this is something that you could educate yourself on and build a solution from the ground up on these one-shot learning technologies, or you could do what we would recommend, which would just be to use Clarify's visual search technology. So it's set up right out of the box to work with a single image per class. So, for an example, that I'll show you in a minute here, where you're going to be able to search against a data set based on visual similarity with just one image. It turns out in practice in retail, there are a huge number of use cases that need this one-shot learning approach, where you're going to have one example that wasn't in the original training data set, and then you're going to be able to use an existing model, and it can be a model that you created or one of the many models that we provide. And then you're going to be able to search against this data set for visual similarity. Here's a quick demonstration of how this would work in practice. Here, a customer is able to take a picture of a backpack they're interested in, and then they're recommended additional backpacks based on visual similarity. So this would be a form of a product recommendation or augmenting the product recommendation process using visual similarity. And here's just a look at how this works in the Clarify platform. So for example, we have a collection of images, including backpacks, and we can click on one of these images. Our model would automatically detect the location of the backpack in the image, and then this detected region then becomes something that we can search against a database of backpacks or other retail items, and then recommend additional products based on visual similarity. So we're going to be able to offer the customer sort of a ranked list of other products that sort of look like the one that they had in mind. And with this one-shot learning approach, one of the puzzles then becomes which visual similarities are important to your user in your use case. And so, for example, we've got an input query that is this triangle of a certain color in a certain location, and we see various transformations of this image. And depending on the actual business use case, there may be certain factors that matter in one case and don't matter so much in another. And how do we account for this? In this, the technical language would be invariance and discrimination. So what sort of changes do we want to ignore? And which sort of changes do we want to distinguish and identify as being important? One example might be translation, and this is where we're talking about the ability to move the location of our object around the field of view. In a product identification case where you're just trying to match backpacks with other backpacks, that might not matter at all. But in a case where perhaps you're doing a heat map of a retail store, the translation, the location of people in your store is exactly what you are after. That's exactly one of the most important factors that you want to keep in mind. So how would you solve this puzzle? That sounds like kind of a pain, having to go through and specify all of these different ways that things can be changed and classified. Well, this then upgrades us to this concept of few-shot learning. So if we have just a few examples, what can we do to train our model, provide examples to our model of the differences that we care about and the ones that we don't? Okay, and this is where few-shot learning comes in handy. And this is where Clarify's applied researchers have done a lot of clever things behind or under the hood to handle class imbalances, automatically augment data, so to make the most out of a small number of data examples. There are things that can be done. They'll perform various translations on an image, for example, and being able to identify if mutual exclusivity matters, and various other tweaks and adjustments that Clarify can handle for you automatically. We've got the practical experience of what matters when it comes to delivering these models in the field, and we've sort of taken care of it for you, so that all you have to do is start with, again, maybe one of your models or one of our pre-built models, provide some additional examples, and then you can identify what matters and what doesn't. And that what this would give you would maybe be this next level in retail, another type of retail use case where you might automatically tag products. You might build upon our apparel detector to identify handbags, and then beyond just the identification of the handbag, you want to identify nuances, brands, different models, and all of this can be handled with a surprisingly small amount of examples. And finally, the next level beyond this would be what's called active learning. And this is where our labeling tools come into play to a greater degree, collecting data from live models and auto-labeling them becomes very powerful. And an example of what we are talking about here would be client that we worked with where we had already built this non-safe for work model. So this was a retailer that dealt with a lot of user-generated content, and there is a shocking amount of undesirable content that they didn't want to be present on their retail marketplace. So we already had an initial non-safe for work model ready, and they were able to deploy this model right away and start getting useful intelligence on the data that was streaming through their platform right off the bat. They wanted additional accuracy in this model, and they had some regional concerns, so maybe features that weren't identified in the original data set that was used to train the model. What we were able to do is deploy this model and then automatically label certain inputs that we were confident our model made accurate predictions on, and then take some ones where there was uncertainty and route these through to a human workforce for review and labeling. And in this case, we started with a high level of accuracy. This was already a 92% accurate model against their test set. And by being able to augment the existing model with just pseudo-labeled, just machine-labeled images. So these are images that were sent into this initial model. We were confident about the predictions that were being made, and then that new data set was then added to retrain the model. And we can see that we got a moderate bump in accuracy. It does tend to be more difficult to increase accuracy once you get above 90%. But we were able to jump by a greater amount by then adding that human workforce, adding natural human intelligence to our artificial intelligence pipeline to push that accuracy higher. And this is a very common scenario. So as the company wants to really maximize their accuracy, they can begin by building off of our existing models and then improve the results from there. So in conclusion, this is kind of our overview of the Clarify platform and main components of and how it all works. We talk about input data that we can handle, images, video, text, and audio. Scribe, which is a dedicated user interface that's specifically made to use AI to assist labelers, automatically detecting objects and images, for example, makes it easier for people to label them. And there's a lot of dedicated user interface tools for labeling images and labeling text. Dedicated space-time search, which is that single-shot learning approach, because that visual search itself, that single-shot learning, is quick to set up and really addresses a lot of practical use cases. And then we've got training platform. We have our Armada Predict, which means that we're handling all of the ML ops, we're handling all of the infrastructure and the GPUs behind the scenes. Mesh, which allows you to then connect together multiple different types of models into a workflow, and Flare for our customers that are in need of solutions that work on edge devices. And in conclusion, the active learning process is one where you would deploy, collect, and correct. So you're going to deploy first based on the best model that you have available, collect data for free by collecting data that you are already collecting, working with in production, and then correct. You're going to be able to iterate on your models over time and improve their performance over time. And finally, just to sort of break down the various levels of data that you may have available and what would be involved in producing these solutions. Pre-built models being the most simple, and if pre-built model addresses your use case, and frankly, many of ours are in active production addressing practical use cases right now, today, then start there. You can also use the general model subset, so you can use we didn't really get into this, but there's ways to use the abstract embeddings from the model to build new solutions. So the features identified by our general model, you can then use to build your own custom models. Visual search, quick training, deep training, active learning. So as we travel down the the options here, we're talking about solutions that require more training, more data, and can get you to higher levels of accuracy over time. And with that, I just wanted to thank everyone, and you can visit us at clarifai.com for more information.
Thank you, Zeph. Thank you. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Guys, any of you have any questions to Zeph? This is the last presentation for the day. So any of you have any questions, just 1 minute. And then one important announcement to make. So just hang on. I'll let you all know what is the announcement. Just wait for 1 minute. In case any question is there for Zeph, you can throw it off, or you can also connect with all the speakers through LinkedIn. That is the best mode to interact and to ask any questions in future as well.
If we do not have any question, maybe I may ask one question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi, Jeff. This was really great presentation. One of the technical ones today, because till this time we were talking more on the business side and how it has impacted till now, and how it is going to impact retail in future. But as you talked about zero shot and one shot learning and then active learning, this is one area of my interest to dive a little bit deeper into the AI and not just talk about the buzzword. So I saw the presentation for zero shot and one shot learning. Can you please quickly help me understand once more? Maybe I have missed. What is the difference between zero shot and one shot again? Because in both the cases we are using pre-built models, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Now I'm making maybe a loose interpretation of these words, and you would see very technical descriptions of such things out in the academic literature and all of that. But the sense that I would want to get across is zero shot means that you're not providing your model with any examples. And one shot means you're providing one example. So the one example, now keep in mind, just providing it with one example doesn't give you a business solution. But if you have a database full of images, and then you provide an example saying, look for other images in this database based on this example, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So instead of training up a whole new model, we've got very quick ways that we can get this one-shot comparison done without running a complete graph, rerunning the full training process over the model.
Right. So maybe I suppose the concept of transfer learning comes after one shot, maybe, right? You pick up an existing model and then you train it with your organization-specific data so that it becomes more accurate for your purposes.
100%. Yeah. So transfer learning would be more of that few shot case. Where we're basically going through and shaving off we've got a fully trained graph, and we shave off the concepts at the very last step, right? And then so we have our embedding, we have the features, the patterns identified in visual data, and our general model is just remarkably robust. Even though it's trained on specific objects in the world, we throw strange things at it like pictures of cells and technical images and these kind of things. And it just knows how edges behave and how shapes behave. And so it'll get you to a surprisingly high level of accuracy right out of the box.
Right.
That'd be the trend.
Taking it forward, what are your thoughts about the models such as GPT-2 and GPT-3, which is like for everything? And I know the accuracy might not be very much for one particular use case. So can you identify some use cases where those kind of algorithms can be used, like a generic algorithm?
Yeah, so GPT-3, everybody in the industry is in awe of what's coming out of GPT-3. I think it's amazing. But So GPT-3 becomes really cool. The examples mostly that I'm familiar with are more generative in nature. So where their GPT-3 is making predictions as well, but what it's making predictions about is the next word, essentially. So if you use GPT-3 to answer a customer's question, essentially what it's doing is making predictions about one word at a time what would come next in a statement. And it's trained off of a huge data set. Some of the disadvantages of something like GPT-3 is that because it's so large and vast, issues of bias and things that people are very concerned about in AI become unwieldy. So when we're offering more targeted solutions that are designed for a specific use case, that becomes much less of a concern.
Yep.
So GPT-3, it's to me, I'm just a big fan of all of this stuff, and I think it's great. But in terms of business solutions, there's many that wouldn't be used for.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good, interesting, and at least for academia and at least for like social media purposes. But when it comes to commercial use case, a model trained on such a vast data, just scrolling over the internet, it will be obviously biased, like for sure.
Yeah. Human nature.
To use in commercial use.
Unfortunately, yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
Hope you all had a great day today, half-day virtual day. But yeah, lots of knowledge-sharing sessions from all the speakers. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
So just to wrap up, guys, there will be a webinar which is happening on 29th of this month. The topic is how AI is transforming the retail and e-commerce industry. It's a similar topic, but the speakers, I'll share the details with you. Hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
So this is the agenda for 29th of June, in which there's a speaker from BCG who's talking about how AI technology can help the retail e-commerce organization on improving the customer experience. Then we have another speaker, Gunjan, Chief Product Officer, Growisto, how AI personalization can help in increase sales. Then we have Maxim, who is head of luxury and specialized retail in Western Europe. His topic is analytics and AI opportunity for luxury and specialized retail. And then we have the last speaker, Marco, the way AI is transforming the e-commerce UX. So this is around an hour presentations, 20 minutes each. If you guys are interested, we'll send the details across to all of you. You all can join and just take the knowledge and the learning from that sessions as well. So the joining link will be shared with all of you from my team, and looking forward to that. The second point which I want to make to all of you is, please log on to our website, that is aicorespot.io, and like the social media channels. While you like the social media channels, what you will be getting is lots of knowledge sharing topics, details, announcements on next events, which will help you enrich details and stay connected with the ecosystem. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. And it was a lovely day with all of you. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Nitin, for having us. And we really enjoyed the conversations as well.
Yeah, sure. I always enjoy interacting with you all. Sumaya, Rishi, it's the second time I know. But it's not the one, and we'll stay connected and we'll keep on interaction.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you so much.
You too. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely weekend. Weekend is there. So keep enjoying the life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.